Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the August 10th, 2021 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. As a matter of formality, we always introduce ourselves, and in addition, we invite everyone and anyone to speak, to ask questions, and to make suggestions, but we would simply ask that you identify yourself because the meeting is being recorded. My name is John Kiernan.
I'm
Jerry?
Steve Ibis, conservation agent.
Gary Burke.
And Jepson, I live at 165 Hillside Street.
Thank you. Hans?
Hans Van Lingen.
Ingrid?
Arthur Doyle.
Arthur, now I can see you. Good. Wendy, are you there? Uh-oh. I can't see Wendy and I cannot hear her. Can anyone else?
I can see her name, but that's about it.
All right. Is Mike Lynch, can you help us?
That's Sean. That's Sean.
Yeah,
Doyle.
no, it's no matter. She definitely is in, but the ability for her to turn on her sound or her video is on her end. She has permissions to do so, but she just has yet to do so.
Okay. And Ingrid, I didn't hear you.
Beatty, member Conservation Commission.
Good, thanks, Ingrid. I will call Wendy and Deller.
There we go.
Ian?
Sorry, John.
Oh, you got it. That's me calling. Don't worry.
Yes. Yes. Hi, I'm sorry about that. My name's Wendy Garpo. I'm a commissioner.
Oh, great. Thanks. So we've all been introduced. So we're ready to go. First on the agenda is Milton 360 Tree Initiative Proposal. Now, I know there's a presenter here, and I wonder if you could introduce yourself and begin. I think there's a presenter here. Steve, do you know?
I do not know. I'm sorry. I don't know if there is one or not.
All right, well, we have their letter that they sent, well, it's dated without a date in July, but it's dated July 2021. And they're actually looking for money and or trees from us. So I think we need to hear from them as to what the rationale would be, the amount of money they're looking for, or the number of trees. But in addition, I should note for both the commission and members of the public that there may be some misinformation about, because in the letter, they actually asked that if we would consider directing some of the monies in the tree bank to this Milton 360 Tree Initiative. The public should be aware that there is no money in the tree bank. The tree bank is a term of art, I guess. It's a virtual inventory of trees. The Milton Conservation Commission does have money, most of which is in the revolving fund, but that is not limited to trees, and it is not a tree bank. The tree bank that we refer to in our records is a virtual inventory of applicants that have pledged trees to us but didn't have the appropriate place to put them. So they put them into it's sort of a credit system. So there are certain applicants, property owners, former applicants who have requested our assistance that have pledged this inventory. So we do have a number of trees, and I think that Kathy promised to send it around today, this afternoon. I don't know, I didn't see it in my email, but if not, we can certainly distribute it both to the public and to the commission members, and certainly to the 360 Tree Initiative Committee. I'm stalling here. I still don't see anything. Unless there is a presenter, I think we need to continue this until September 10th.
Yeah, I did not get a copy of anything from Kathy this afternoon, John, either.
Okay.
Okay, so we can continue.
Does it?
And John, the letter references a recommended tree list. I got 2 copies of the letter and no copy of the recommended tree list.
Okay.
So I think there was a little bit of a disconnect there.
All right. Well, now that we're on the subject, I actually have a question here but it says the cost of purchasing a 2-inch caliper sapling with a 1-year guarantee, including planting and watering, would be about $500. I'm not surprised by the price, but I thought that would purchase a 3-inch caliper tree. Does anybody know? Am I off base here, or maybe simply out of market?
I thought it was either a 2 or a 2.5.
Yeah, I have 2 on a property across the street from us, obliquely speaking, and they look like they were 2-inch calipers when they were put in last year.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, well, I see no choice but to defer this until September 10th, and we can re-invite a member, a spokesperson for the Milton Tree Initiative. So let's move on to number 2. That's the planting plan, Trailside Museum. This is the otter exhibit.
Yes, John, and I don't believe anybody's here tonight for that one either. However, I was asked just to explain that is a plan. That's a plan to date. It's part of the certificate of compliance sequence. A plan is required, and in 2 years we'll get a certificate of compliance request once the plants have been gone through a couple of seasons. I was out there back a little over a month ago, and will eventually write a memo to the record about my visit there. And all the plants were looking very good at the time, just to let you know.
All right, so this is simply part of the original order of conditions that they give us a status report?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right,
John, you may recall that when we had a site walk in that area several years ago for the work that was being done on the slope and a power station, a building,
I do remember that.
that we actually visited this garden.
We did indeed. I recall that.
Before the new plantings went in.
Yes.
Yes, that's true. It was before.
Yeah.
All right, well, that sounds like progress is being made.
Oh, yes, it looks very good.
Number 3 is order of conditions, DCR, Neponset River.
Evening, everybody. I'm Allie. I'm the inland ecologist for the eastern part of the state for DCR. And also with us, we have Carol Frost, who's one of the state botanists from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. As you know, Natural Heritage was a co-applicant with DCR, so I figured why not invite her in case the commission had any questions in terms of what we've done between 2020 and 2021, as well as if there are any questions related to what we're proposing to do in 2021, 2022. So I just wanted to provide a summary, and Steve or Kathy, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So this was the map that was included in the Conservation Commission status report update submitted today.
Ally, we don't see it yet, Allie.
Oh, you don't see it? Okay,
No.
hold on. Do you see it now?
Yes,
Great,
we do. Thank
excellent.
you.
All right. So this is the map, and it's going to look familiar. We've been introducing the same map every year since we received the order of conditions in 2017. So we provided you with a summary of the 2018 activities and 2019 activities last year. So this year, in terms of 2020, we actually haven't done a lot of work in the Foul Meadow area. So this is Brush Hill Road. Burma Road is right here, which is that trail that goes along the MWRA sewer. We've really focused our efforts of mile-a-minute management by doing manual removal between DCR staff, volunteers, and Heritage, as well as our contractors. So we've been doing a lot of mile-a-minute work in that area. We haven't really touched the area that we have originally managed in 2019 along Brush Hill Road. This was mostly woody invasives. Those have been previously managed by cutting and dabbing with herbicide. We've been really letting that population of the new generations of invasives to grow so that we can have a thick monoculture to continue to manage in the future, which is one of the 2021 updates that I'm going to be providing the commission and asking for permission in accordance with special condition number 48. And I also wanted to provide an update in terms of, so Carol and the Natural Heritage crew have also been managing some of the invasives, specifically around one of the rare species that we have located along Burma Road. So anywhere in close proximity, Natural Heritage has been doing either manual removal or hand wiping with herbicide, or similar to our contractors, the cut and dabbing with the herbicide is previously approved. And then also wanted to introduce the CCC area in Milton, which we did do a lot of work this past year. So between our contractors, the Friends of the Blue Hills, yes.
Ally, could I interrupt? Before
Sure.
you go on to the next area, can you go back and what is what is the endangered species?
So I don't know if I'm at liberty to share that information, but maybe Carol can.
Yeah, no, we're not. We don't give out the information on what the specific plant is because it's too risky to have somebody go out and collect. So you can write and get that information if you wanted to. It would be free for the Conservation Commission if they want to get information like that, but I won't provide it in a public hearing.
Right, and I believe I know what it is from my work with the new Neponset Valley Relief Sewer work on the Technical Advisory Committee back in the 90s. I chaired that committee, but I will be glad to talk to the commission offline about it.
Yeah,
We-
it needs to not
yeah.
be public record, basically, so.
Right.
Yeah, we can report that we did do a review of the area this year, and the plant is there and it's doing well. I mean, it's still rare, but it's there.
Well, and I would say actually it has responded well. We did a fair amount for 2 years, we have taken out mugwort where we've done a wipe. So herbicide on a cotton glove, wipe the mugwort plant so that I'm not getting any herbicide on the rare plants, just on the mugworts. And the rare plants have responded really well. We've had an increase in numbers, which has been really good because it was getting very small and few, and our number of flowering plants has increased as well.
Great.
Ally, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't interrupt you.
No, it's okay. So going to the CCC area off of Route 28 and Ridgewood Roads, the Friends of the Blue Hills obtained a grant last year to do some invasive management around the CCC structure so that some of them could be exposed and we could interpret them with an interpretive sign. So we had our contractors do some invasive management in that area, specifically mostly of woody invasives as well as the bittersweet vines. There's a lot of vines up there growing up along the unfortunately diseased ashes. So we were a little concerned about the potential of the trees falling on the volunteers if the volunteers were the ones doing the management. So we had the contractor do the bittersweet management, and then we went in with the volunteers and did some of the other management, specifically along the CCC trail, which is this trail right here. And then in this corner of the path, we ended up exposing one of the old CCC camp foundations, specifically one of the cafeterias. And that's where we installed the interpretive sign, and the Friends of the Blue Hills are looking to do additional invasive management in that area. One new invasive that we noticed in this region is Japanese stiltgrass. It is growing along the CCC trail as well as adjacent to where we put up the sign. Last year I tried weed whacking it. It's very difficult to weed whack because it's a very flimsy grass, so it keeps like moving around with the weed whacker wind. And so this year we're also proposing to do the Japanese stiltgrass.
Okay.
So this year we're proposing a change in how we manage the stiltgrass if it's amenable to the commission. So in terms of 2021, at Foul Meadow, we've already started doing some of our invasive management, specifically mile a minute. The Friends of the Blue Hills and DCR have gone out there at least 5 days and done mile a minute removal. We've been able to keep it from seeding this year, at least in areas in Milton and areas away from the rare plant. Carol is going to be going this Thursday to do some additional mile a minute removal and some other invasive species management around the endangered plant. For 2021, so the pink areas on this map that were managed in 2019 have now grown into a monoculture of short, pretty much all glossy buckthorn. So we're talking about 2 to 3 feet of a dense cover of glossy buckthorn. So what we're proposing to do, if the commission agrees with this, is using a new technique that we haven't implemented in this area. I call it the paint roller technique. It does have its own name. It's called the side swipe herbicide applicator. And there's an image on the computer screen right now. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. And so with this technique, it also has a blocker on it so that only the plant that you're rolling the roller over actually gets the herbicide applied to it. We figured that this would be more friendly in this area because it's within the floodplain than broadcast spray, trying to target just the buckthorn. So with this, we would be using Rodeo, which is the water-friendly herbicide that's used for woody vegetation, with a tackifier or a sticky formulation so that it actually stays on the leaves. And so what we propose to do is just literally, use it as a paintbrush or a paint roller over the dense population of buckthorn in order to more efficiently manage that area. And so 2021 for the CCC camp area, we're proposing to continue to work with the Friends of the Blue Hills on invasive management around the CCC campus. And we would also like to hire our contractors to come in and do some of that stiltgrass management. This would be a foliar application using a backpack sprayer with a low volume nozzle. And let me see if I can share photos. Can you guys see can the commission see the photos right now? I just wanted to show you what the stiltgrass looks like along this trail. So the CCC trail is actually an old CCC road. They used to bring horses and buggies and all their equipment to the CCC camp on this road. Right now it's completely overgrown, mostly with invasive species. But what we noticed at least I noticed when I was there last year, was this influx of Japanese stiltgrass. So it's this grassy looking plant. It kind of looks like a really flimsy bamboo. It's got a silver stripe on the leaf. And when you pull the root system, the roots are very symmetrical and they kind of look like stilts sticking out from the main shoot system. And so what we're proposing is to do the broadcast spray anywhere, not broadcast, the backpack targeted spray anywhere we have more than a 75% cover of Japanese stiltgrass, which you can see in this area would be all of these clumps. And that would kill it and prevent it from going from seed and continuing to spread into next year. So here we see the stiltgrass. You can kind of see the silver blade on it, which is a very diagnostic characteristic of the invasive. This would be occurring within the 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland, as well as the 200-foot riverfront area of the stream that passes through the CCC camp and ends up in the CCC water hole. However, as you can see in the pictures, this is right along the actively used 2-foot path. And the stiltgrass does not extend beyond the limits of the roadway layout that's all upland. So we would just be targeting the edges of the path itself. And as always, we would be signing it ahead of time so that our park users know that we're doing some targeted invasive management, keep the signs up for at least 48 hours before removing them. So these are just a few more pictures. There's a lot more other invasives there that we would like to target, but I think starting with the stiltgrass is a good option. And this is the foundation that we exposed with the Friends of the Blue Hills. Used to be the old cafeteria. And I do have a picture of the interpretive sign that was installed. When we install it, there was less vegetation. We have to go in again and with the Friends and start managing some of the invasives again. Right now, I'm kind of, I've asked them to put off doing any management in this area unless I'm with them. They can be supervised with someone else, but in this particular area, I'm with them just because we also have another endangered species here that I want to make sure that, everybody's safe around. So I didn't know if there were any other specific questions about the backpack sprayer technique for the stiltgrass or the roller technique for the buckthorn that we're hoping to be able to implement for invasive management this year.
Can you give us what is the chemical used from the sprayer?
Yes, it is. It's in our update. It is Here we go. It is rodeo, which
Ingrid, do you
is
have any-
similar to Aquamaster. It's one of the herbicides approved for applications in wetlands or waterways.
Ingrid, do you have a thought on that?
Unmute
Maybe
myself.
on mute, Ingrid?
Yeah, I just unmuted myself. No, I think rodeo is perfectly acceptable. I'm curious, what are you using for is it an emulsifier that you said the sticky formulation? What is the excipient?
It's Thinvert,
Spell?
Thinvert, Thinvert.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, but rodeo that's sort of the art standard right now.
Yes. And I have never heard of Thinvert either, Ingrid.
It is the same carrier that we've been using for this project for the cut stem applications as well.
Right,
Okay.
and you need something for if it's if it's a leaf that has a glossy surface or something that repels water, you need something like that, or the active ingredient won't stay there.
Understood. Any other questions from commission members?
So sorry, this is Hans. So with the sideswipe application, are you going to go through and brush cut first? Or is
No, yep. So because we did our cutting in 2019, we opened up the canopy for all the seeds to start resprouting. And now we have a dense cover of just buckthorn that's about 2 feet high. So we're just targeting that dense buckthorn area. So we don't have to cut. It would just be, so the roller would paint over the leaves.
okay. Same thing with the grass? I mean, that's just going to be spot
That
foliar?
would be spot foliar. Yep.
Okay. And just a sort of general question. I mean, these are all the traditional invasives control approaches. What species has this been the most effective with, and to what extent are you winning the battle with some or others? I mean, overall, how is that progressing, at least in this location?
So this is anecdotal and not based on percent coverage, because I
Understood.
don't have the percent coverage information, but based on my observations from being in the Foul Meadow area in 2008 through 2014, and then coming again in 2020, there was a significant reduction in buckthorn compared to what I've seen in the past. So the buckthorn management has been very effective. The thing is, then we open up canopy and other invasives start migrating in. I was also happy to see that there was less mile a minute in the Milton section. Canton is loaded. We have off of Green Lodge Street, it's just unmanageable. And the biocontrol weevil is just not keeping up. So, doing the manual is effective for now. If the population continues to grow, we may need to, talk about the potential of using a pre-emergent herbicide, which is something actually that I introduced to this commission in 2009, but we just never used it because of we had a lot of flooding on the Neponset for multiple years in a row. But it's something to consider as well. But I think with the woody invasives, the cut stem treatment is being very effective. I have not seen the sideswipe roller technique used yet, but I can see that being very effective too, just because I've seen foliar treatment on like Japanese knotweed being, the response is insane. You end up from one gigantic knotweed to one little, multiple sprigs, super thin, all wrinkly looking thing that doesn't even look like knotweed. And I also saw it with Phragmites recently because we're doing similar management in Cambridge. And the results have been, I was in shock when I saw it because I never expected it to be that visual within a short period of time. Foul Meadow, we just have a lot of other things there, like the mugwort that it sees sunlight and then it spreads. And mugwort's not considered an invasive, but it is a pest and it's taken over a lot of the habitat, especially areas around the rare plant. So we've been managing it and we've been talking about future potential management of it as well, more aggressively.
Okay, and one last question. I don't know if have you selected their contractor supporting you for this coming work, or
It's the same contractor that has been doing the work for the past 2 years.
Okay, and who's that contractor, if you don't mind me asking?
It is, don't know why I'm blanking out on their name, but Carol, do you remember their name? It's Chris Palatин's company,
Oh,
if anybody knows Chris.
yes, I know him very well.
Yes, it's,
Um,
why am I blanking?
He changed the name recently.
Yes,
It was Paladin Ecological Services.
correct.
It's now something to do with improvement. I'm sorry.
Habitat something, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
And while you're looking, one last question, I guess, for Ms. Frost. Have you seen any expansion of any rare, threatened, or endangered species in the area? Or are you fighting a battle just trying to keep it sustained as is?
Well, let me first answer the question for Chris Politan. His company is Land Stewardship.
Thank you.
The second question, Hans, the question you asked, am I seeing expansion of the species of concern? At this point, I haven't seen them expand except for in the same location where they've been. I haven't been doing intensive surveys to see if they are spreading into other areas. They have expanded, in the location where they are, the populations have gotten to be larger, but I haven't seen a lot of spread into new locations. We do have a lot of area that looks like potential habitat, and it would make sense for me to go out in the springtime and do a little bit more intensive survey. It's a long ways from where I live, so I haven't been doing that a lot lately. I've always seemed to pick a really hot day to go out and do it when I'm trying to do some other things. But maybe 2022 will be the year that I spend a little bit more time doing some survey work for the species.
Sure. Excellent. Thank you.
Other questions from other commissioners? Are there members of the public, abutters or not, that have a question or a comment? All right, hearing none, this is an order of conditions. And I think what I've heard from the presentation is that the only conditions I'm concerned with is in terms of notification of the public prior to application. And I know that there's going to be signage alerting the public to the presence of the chemicals. And they'd be up for 48 hours. So that as long as there is proper notification and signage, I'm comfortable with the project going forward. Are there any other thoughts or concerns from commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the order of conditions?
So moved.
With that, the notification of the public and the proper signage to go along with that. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much for your presentation. That was very, very helpful.
Thank you both.
Let us know if you're ever in the area and want to visit any of the spots. I'm in the Blue Hills often, so I can give a tour.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I may pick you up on that.
Yeah.
Can you stop by my house and tell me how to get rid of all the nettles?
Oh,
I hate those things.
the
All right,
birds
thank
love them though.
Before we go on to the next item on the agenda, I actually made a mistake because I was talking to Steve before we began, and we talked about continuing one of the items near the end of the list. And if you go to where are we? It is
Number 18.
18, enforcement order at 82 Cliff Road. Mr. Roddy Powers had today asking for continuance, indicating his presence, his progress rather, and said that he thought he could make some additional progress and requested that we continue this until September 10th is our next meeting.
It's actually the 14th, I believe.
It's the 14th? Okay.
Let me check the calendar.
Mr. Powers, are you on the Zoom?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay,
It
thanks.
is the 14th.
I apologize because I meant to do this immediately when we
No
started.
worries. No worries.
14th September, John.
All right, so this is an objection. We'll continue this matter until the 14th of September. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Powers. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. So we're now back on the agenda, and we are number 4, notice of intent at 1387 Brush Hill Road.
Share screen. 1387.
I don't know why my video is not working. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jim, is that you?
Jim DeSalle, yeah, I don't know.
I can't see you, but I see you. now.
I just put the screen on. I don't know why I'm completely black. That's nothing like a new laptop. I'm
True.
gonna get my money back on this one. But
Is the camera covered? Sometimes it's a little switch.
not really, no. I've been using it, believe me,
No.
5 days a week, it seems. And this is the first time this has happened. Let me shut it back off and
All right, well, the screen sharing is working, and we can hear you loud and clear.
okay, well, you don't need to
Put
see me
the-
anyway. I think everyone knows what I look like. My name's Jim DeSalle from DeSalle Burke and Associates, and here with me tonight is Cam Campbell. And the reason why I'm gonna mention his name is if anyone has any specific questions about the drainage, he has actually done the drainage, and he is the next group of replacements for the gyms. So we're trying to usher in a new group here.
You guys
If
can't
you
be replaced. Replaced.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be, believe me. We've been doing this too darn long. If you could go back to this first sheet, I guess would be the best sheet. Would
This
be
one
the
here?
existing condition, or this one.
Yeah, I can share my screen if you'd like.
If it's easier, Cam can share his screen.
Sure, go right ahead.
That doesn't work. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
We go back to the first sheet, Cam. I believe the board, or most of the board, is familiar with the site. We had an ORAD for Dr. Hack when he was planning on building a house here a couple of years ago. The ORAD was done by Goddard Environmental. And as you see, the existing lot, starting out at Avenue A in the right-hand lower corner, is about an elevation 110.
Can I
It goes
interrupt
down
you?
to the,
Jim, can I interrupt
Yeah.
you? What was
Sure.
the date of that, the ORAD?
it was May 7th, 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it's recorded in book 37-586, page 140. So we've been on top of that. So I'm assuming that the board, or most of the board, is familiar with the site. The property behind it and to the left was owned by the Shellers for a long time. I'm not sure if it's still owned. It has been subdivided. There was a 40B proposed back there at one point. The end of the Avenue A was just improved by Arthur Murphy. So we're right in that area where the board, I think, has been pretty active. And what the gentleman wants to do is build a single-family house for his family. Anton, I don't believe is going to be with us tonight. He's actually in Chesnea and cannot get internet service, or as of 5 o'clock couldn't get internet service. If he's here, I apologize. As you see, the proposed layout is he has about a 4,500 square foot footprint, and the little building closest to Avenue A is a workshop because he does carpentry work and cabinet work. There's a little building on the rear of the property. It's not actually a building, it's actually a pool, which you can see right here. And the predominant disturbance in the buffer zone is landscaping and grade and drainage, I'm sorry. We have approximately 5,800 square feet of disturbance in the 100-foot buffer. Nothing in the 25, obviously. And I believe the closest we get is about 50 feet to the wetlands. There's about 553 square feet of building in the 100-foot buffer, and about 855 square feet of the driveway is within the buffer. The rest of the 5,800 square feet is just disturbance for the drainage system, which we've done as rain gardens. So it's all.
Where's the 50-foot mark? When you say that, are you talking about grade changes, or are you talking about a building?
I'm just talking about grading. You'll see. Do you see where the fence, the erosion control is right along here? That's about 50 feet. We don't have the 50-foot on there. The 25 is shown and the 100-foot is shown.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so you'll see that there's 2 rain gardens, one in the rear of the property between the pool and the house. And then there's another one to the left of the driveway. The rain gardens handle the 2, 10, 25 and 100-year storms. There's a drainage swale to the left of the driveway that's going to grab all the runoff from the driveway and direct it into the rain garden. Then the rain garden will slow down and infiltrate and then release eventually into the wetlands. Both of them work that way. The reason why we use rain gardens, we had an original Caltech system designed, but the groundwater is actually pretty high in this area. So we ended up going with the rain gardens. And we think it works. It probably works better in this case. We've actually built the house into the land. If you notice, there's a retaining wall between the workshop, which is planned south, exactly. That's going to actually go up to the natural grade of the land behind it, so we don't have to take down as many trees instead of bringing down the grade and putting a wall along the property line. We're going to use the back of the house as a retaining wall, which, if you notice, it's actually that section right there is a garage. So, and then we're going to be putting an under drain system that will take the groundwater and divert it underneath the house and eventually outlet into the towards the wetlands. There's a proposed pool. Most of the work is done outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. If you notice that the rain garden to the page north is virtually completely out of the 100-foot buffer. The rain garden that's adjacent to the left of the driveway is within the 50 to 100-foot buffer. The utilities is going to be a force main system that comes out behind the garage. That's going to go out and eventually end up on Brush Hill Road. There's underground electric in that area, so the utilities for the electric are going to go out to Avenue A and then towards Brush Hill Road there's a transformer, I believe, up there. The electric company is going to actually deal with that. And then we have a water line that's gonna come down close to the driveway and connect to, there's a hydrant about 150 feet. It's actually almost right in front of the corner of the house. You'll see there's a hydrant over here, and we're gonna connect the water to the main that comes down from Brush Hill Road down Avenue A. And that's pretty much the summary of what we're planning on doing. There is a landscaping plan. We're taking down approximately 16 trees. There is 184 total caliber inches to be removed, and the plan by Andy Rojas with the plant list replaces 184 for 184. That's a lot of trees that we're going to be replanting. But he has it shown here. We're not, you know, I don't know. To me, it seems like a lot of replacement. And it seems like a lot of replacement that may end up displacing other trees or being stuffed in. I'm not sure if it's the best solution, but if you're looking for 1 inch for 1 inch, this is what we're gonna have.
Well, we do have a virtual, I have to be careful of using the word bank, but we have a tree bank. It's an inventory. It's not dollars, but we do have credits and promises to support our efforts to replenish the town's trees. So that is an option. You can plant them somewhere off property if that is the appropriate landscaping plan.
I guess the question is if we start getting into, I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the landscaping plan. We've got some 6-inch clumps of river birch and mostly 4-inch caliper and 3-inch caliper. There's hornbeam, eastern redbud, hawthorn, tulip trees, and so on and so forth. If it gets to the point, I guess, can we leave it open so that if we get to the point where there's so many trees in there that some of them are not going to fit, we can opt to put them in the bank?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, I see that you've got an Aurora dogwood in there. That's a hybrid between a Coosa and an American dogwood. I'm wondering if
Is that an old list?
I don't know if it's an old list.
Okay, what happened was when we first filed.
6/25/2021.
No, there's an 8/5/2021. I apologize. I did send it to Steve and I sent it to Kathy.
Okay.
After we submitted, Steve had a comment to me about non-invasive, non-native species. And we changed the plan. I apologize for that.
Okay, so can someone send me the revised plan? I'd love to take a look at it.
Sure. Steve, can you do that or do you want me to do it?
I can do that, yes, but not tonight, Ingrid.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Yep, sure.
On the screen, you can see the updated native species plants.
Okay. Oh, hold
All
on.
right, well, we've got some building in the buffer zone, the extension of the house. We've got some rain gardens that are probably going to be a great idea. I don't think we need to necessarily look at the line because the line was already approved and was still within the 3-year extension period. But I'd like to take a look at it. Any other members of the Conservation Commission would like to do a site walk?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yes, I would.
All right, so we have to dodge Steve's absence. As he indicated before, he's going to be traveling. But how about this Saturday? Which is what, the
14th.
14th?
Yes.
We're good. I guess we have the erosion control line staked out there. I don't have the building or anything else staked out. Is there anything else you'd be looking for?
I think you can just point out, or somebody can point out the area of the rain garden, but I'd like to see the proximity of the house where there's an extension towards the wetlands.
So the part that's over the wetland, I mean, the 100-foot buffer?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then just give a ballpark on where the rain garden's going. Okay,
Yes, that's correct. That would be suitable for me.
yep, not a problem.
And so going back to the grading, is the erosion control fence the limit of disturbance for the grading?
Yes.
Or is it further back than that?
No, we're coming up pretty close to it, yep.
Okay. And is the site balanced, or do you have an export import?
No, I think it's pretty close to being balanced.
Okay.
If anything, we might take a little bit out, but we don't have those final numbers.
Okay.
And I did read the square footage of the building and the driveway and all, but what's the increase in impervious surface? I mean, it's a lot. I say increase because
it's all increased.
Right. That so
I can give you the answers. The wetland area is 11,652, which is about 15% of the lot. The disturbance in the 100-foot buffer zone is about 5,800 square feet, which is about 7.5%. Of that, you have 553 square feet of it is house. 855 is the physical driveway. The impervious, which is 1,408 out of that 5,800 square feet. The rest of the disturbance is just the rain gardens and grading.
No, I understand that, and that all makes sense. But what I'm concerned with is that the house that I'm looking at here, it's pretty large. That's a lot of water. And even though it's outside the 100 feet, the water's coming into our jurisdiction.
And
So
we're handling the peak runoff for all events, for all storms, as you can see in the report, with the rain gardens. So the pre and post is
there any kind of
less, actually, the post is less.
All right, that's what I'm getting at, because I didn't know whether or not the rain garden is sufficient in terms of capturing if you get a large storm event. Is it actually going to capture it, or do you need some kind of a Cultec chamber to slow it down?
No, well, that's the problem we had with the groundwater. We had Cultex originally, and then we did actual soil tests. But if you look at the report, you'll see the 2-year storm, the pre and post is the same. The 10-year storm, you lose about half a cubic foot a second with the pre-existing and post conditions. The 25-year storm, you go from 491 to 380. And the 100-year storm, you go from 729 to 688. So you're reducing the runoff in every storm event, except for the 2-year storm where you're saying the same.
Okay.
With the rain gardens.
Understood. All right, how about, I have to negotiate with the Conservation Commission here. How about 8:30? Is that okay for this Saturday?
John, are we gonna have more than one, do you think? I don't know.
Steve, you know?
My guess is yes, you'll have more than one.
Okay, I'm gonna be a
We
little
could
bit
make
tight
it
on.
8. We could make it 8, Ingrid.
8 is fine with me.
Perfect. Wendy, am I gonna get pushed back here at 8 o'clock?
8 is fine.
Hey, all right. All right. Jerry, Arthur, Hans?
I have a wedding that day. Sorry, John.
Oh, that is an important priority.
Not my own.
That's important too. Jerry and Hans,
I'm a tentative with a leaning towards, I think I can be there.
all right. Well, I just want to make sure we can vote if it's appropriate to vote there. Jerry?
I can give you a 90% yes.
All right. So I think that's enough. We can say with confidence we'll have a quorum. So let's set it up for this Saturday, the 14th at 8 a.m. On site. And that's the Avenue A side, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, before we move on, though, are there any other questions of commissioners? Are there questions from the butters? Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one quick question. Jim, do you have any idea what those large concrete blocks are on the site presently?
Yes, I do. But they will be removed.
Okay.
It was originally, the
is it-
plan
there's-
was to use the blocks. They were from another site
Yes, obviously.
that the client owns. And there was a thought that maybe that we would use the walls, and then Cheryl Tagayas, who's the attorney, the architect on the project, sort of nixed the use.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yep, no, they'll be going somewhere else.
All right, members of the public, abutters, anyone have a question, a comment, or suggestion?
Ally from DCR, I have a question. Have you received any information or response from Natural Heritage about the project?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
And we haven't heard from a DP number either.
Thank you.
And Ally, will they be looking for a no-take letter?
They will be looking for a response to the NOI.
Right, okay.
So is this in mapped habitat or?
If I'm looking at it correctly on Oliver, it is, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I agree. Yes, it is.
Okay. I thought that I was looking at it on the plans and I thought it looked like it was outside of habitat.
So this is the area where we've had blue spotted salamanders.
It's in an ACEC.
Yes. And, you know, I was pushing to make sure we had a quorum, but it won't matter because if you don't have a DEP number, we can't vote anyway.
Yeah, no, the last DEP number was issued August 2nd. And I think ours went in like August 2nd or 3rd.
So the locus that you provided for the NOI shows the property outside of priority habitat 1131.
I thought it was,
I believe it is, unless they just updated their maps August 1st, unless it changed with that.
All right, can you update the map then for us?
Yeah,
if it's
yeah, we
changed
can
August
update it.
1st. We had the same thing happen in Dedham last week, so. To our benefit there, but
All right, any other questions, comments from anyone? Citizens?
Yeah, just in the future, when you submit these sort of locuses on the, for notice of intent, can you make sure to cite the date of the, and the source of the data layer?
Yep.
Sure.
All right, any other comments, questions from anyone? Hearing none, with the assent of the applicant, we will continue this matter until Saturday, the 14th of August at 8 a.m. at the site.
thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is notice of intent 8 Wentworth Farm.
Hey, good evening, all.
Hey, good
Jeff
evening.
Kane with LAL Engineering Group. Hope everyone's well. Representing that's Ken Fit LLC for this filing for 8 Wentworth Farm Road. This is lot 10 of the Wentworth Farm subdivision. It'll be actually the last lot that we're going to be in front of you for as far as notice of intent goes. But this is one of the largest ones of the subdivision. It's about 62,000 square feet. Currently, it's being used. It's part of this stormwater pollution prevention plan from the original subdivision. It has an area on site that's being used for material storage. So the site has been partially cleared already. We have an area of wetlands to the far east and the far west of the site. The one on the far east, the BVW associated with the stream crossing, the 100-foot buffer of that, which falls onto this little skinny sliver of land that you can see heading to the east on Wentworth Farm Road. We will not be proposing any work within the 100-foot buffer to that wetland. The other wetland is on the western corner of the property. You can see that's the finger type projection from the larger wetland to the south of the property. That 100-foot buffer is the one we will be working in. And as currently, we're looking to put about a 5,000 square foot house on the lot, keeping in line with the other houses in the subdivision now. We're looking to do about 15,000 square feet of permanent buffer disturbance and 4,800 square feet of which will be impervious surfaces. Due to this permanent buffer disturbance, we're submitted information that shows we're in compliance with the state and local performance standards. Let me go over those real quick with you. Under the state performance standards, we're doing no work within the BVW. We're also doing no work within an estimated habitat of rare wildlife, and we're proposing no work within any areas of critical environmental concern. Underneath the town performance standards, we have incorporated the state standards. We're providing erosion control during construction. There'll be no oil separators or catch basins, being this is a single family home. And we have flagged the resource areas that was done under the previous subdivision and recently renewed, and that's under Mass DEP file 0460509. And again, as part of the fact that we are having permanent disturbance to the buffer zone area, we are providing project mitigation for that. And in line with the other lots that we've done previously, this is part of the cluster development bylaw. So we're limiting the area of disturbance, we're centralizing that, and we're providing the town with 181 square feet of open space that's been put into a conservation restriction. This lot is in a subdivision that is part of a low impact design. We've reduced the areas of impervious. We've made the roadways more narrow than standard, and we've eliminated the use of sidewalks. We are providing roof drains.
Hey, could you, before you move on, can you go
Yep.
back one, Jeff?
Sure.
How much space did you put into a conservation restriction?
181,000 square feet.
Oh, that was, okay, all right. I said
181.
181, I went, that's not very much. Okay.
I don't think Marion would have liked doing all the work for that much.
Okay.
We provided Cultex on site to capture the first half-inch of runoff, which is concurrent with the Mass DEP stormwater policy for treatment volume on the site. We have tried to reduce as much as possible the yard slopes to reduce the velocities and any potential for runoff from the site. We have a low phosphorus fertilizer requirement that's been made part of the homeowners association, and we will be obviously stabilizing all disturbed areas within the subdivision. The house, as you see, that's on the plan now, the area disturbance at 15,000, that is in line with what we proposed initially back in the 2016 subdivision. So we have tried to kind of look forward. At the time we did this filing, we kind of tried to project forward to keep those areas in front of you and not change them as much as possible. And the house is sited, once you've got the soil testing done, that's that soil absorption field you're looking at in the front of the house. It's really the only area you can go on the site. So that kind of dictates what we're doing and where we're locating the other elements. But we did try to, as much as possible, keep in line with what we showed in the initial filing for the subdivision as a whole. So that said, I'm willing to entertain, obviously, any questions the commission or the public may have.
I have a question.
Go
I
ahead,
don't
go
know
ahead.
whether- Jan Jepson at 165. My concern is I just don't have a good sense of that buffer zone that abuts 165 and what's going to happen within there. For instance, are you going to clear cut all the trees? There's a lot of mature trees in that location. And a number of years ago, I believe it was in 2016, the Conservation Commission went in that property and they identified at that time certain trees that needed to not be removed. So I don't know whether that carries over to this particular cluster development, but obviously my ultimate concern is, are all those trees going to be clear cut in the back of that particular home on lot 10?
Mm-hmm. Well, as we stated before, we did work through this back in 2016 with the commission. If you want me to share my screen, I can show the initial development that we proposed back then. We had a similar amount of clearing. I know we walked that area many times with the commissioners, so I know we did work through the process back then. So as I did mention, we tried to kind of hold that area of clearing as was initially proposed. And honestly, with the cluster development, there's only a limited area that we could develop anyway. All these lots were kind of, and again, I've used this term many times, I really don't like to, but that buffer area was always kind of sacrificial to the rest of the area being granted to the town under the easement. So the whole idea of the cluster lots was to centralize the buffer disturbances so it's not spread out all over the place. So you're having the disturbances in one area and leave the area in a whole less disturbed. So, you know, again, we have worked through this before, we've seen this before, and this was always kind of projected to happen as far as any of the clearing in that area.
So when you say, just because I don't understand the terminology when you're saying that,
Sure.
when you refer to it being disturbed, are you saying the trees are going to be going?
Some trees will go in that area, absolutely. Some may be able to
Some
stay.
will stay.
What's
As
that?
long as some of the older trees stay, you know, that would be nice.
Yes, I mean, some will stay. We're also obviously outside the 25 foot as well. So some along that property line that you can see, the limit to that grading, there will be trees remaining there, yes.
Okay,
It
great.
will not be cleared to the property line.
Good. That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, if you're clearing inside our jurisdiction, we would want a tree survey there. I mean, I'm looking at the bottom of the diagram, where it says septic plan.
Yep.
And I'm looking between the wetlands line and the 100-foot line.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, are you talking about clearing trees there?
Septic line. No, not beyond. We have the control, the erosion control barrier shown. You can see really where the limits of those contours come in. That's really the limit of any clearing that would be necessary. Now, some of that area has been cleared now, just again, due to the storage for material for the subdivision itself. And that was as part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan for the original subdivision that we submitted. So there has been an area in there already cleared, and it's being used for storage and materials.
So Jeff, it seems to me as if anything between the green line and I would think that's the northwest corner, is that correct?
Northwest, probably more southwest.
Southwest, okay, thank you, southwest corner.
Mhm.
You should have a tree survey. It's gonna be any trees that are coming down. You know, between the green line and the existing trees that are coming down.
When we talked about this before, previously, we had the discussion about the trees, and this went back to the initial part of the mitigation for the subdivision, I believe. And I think early on, we had the discussion again a couple of times that the mitigation was kind of already taken care of with the land given to the town. And that was part of the whole mitigation process.
Well, I remember the discussion, but I thought what we did is in lieu of the contribution to the open space under the cluster zone development, we dropped our performance standard from 3 to 1 to like 1.5 to 1, because a lot of the trees you planted anyway.
Right. And we did that, right. We already did that based on
you get credit for those that you were planting. And then we dropped our performance standard down to 1.5 to 1. But we did, there was still a trade-off on trees.
Right, there was. And I know we had done that initially. And my understanding was we've already taken care of that during the initial filing period. If you're saying otherwise, that's fine. We'll go forward with that. But that's, you know, how we haven't been proceeding as of yet.
I'm just searching my memory bank. I thought that we had that discussion back when the road was going in and we approved the basic infrastructure coming in and the roadway and the cul-de-sac. And then we said we'd have a separate NOI for each one of the house lots, or the ones that were jurisdictional anyway.
Right, but we've never carried that over to the lots themselves. That was always part of it. And if you even go back to even the last couple of ones we've done, that's just never come up because I thought we'd handled that early on.
We talking about a lot of trees?
I haven't surveyed it, honestly, John. I know some of that, like I had mentioned, that area has been cleared due to some of the storage for the subdivision material. So maybe if Steve has been out there more recently, I just haven't looked at it for that regard because again, I thought this issue was already put to bed.
I have not, I'm sorry, I have not been out there, Jeff, very recently.
Yeah.
at all.
Okay, because a lot of the area is non-jurisdictional to us.
Right, is that some of it has been already cleared. If you look at that footprint of the house area itself, that's an area that's now used for material storage. And that was part of the subdivision filing. That was one of the areas we designated for the stormwater plan as an area of storage. And that was done initially for the first part of the filing when we first put the erosion control out there.
Well, I just like to have some sense of, how many trees are gonna go and how many are gonna stay, and whether or not there should be some level of replacement. Admittedly, it would be different than our usual standard because, and for those that are new to the commission or members of the public, we've been pretty good in terms of maintaining our performance standards for tree replacement over the many years. We're now in the midst of changing it from, instead of having a 3-to-1, we're now measuring caliper at breast height, which is different, but we're still applying a standard response to tree removal that is jurisdictional to us. This case is different because of the 181,000 square feet of open space that we have under conservation restriction, which is a good deal for the town.
And I think we also provided some tree planting in the replication area as well.
Yes, you did. You
Right.
did indeed, including all the way along the street.
Right.
The roadway coming in. I'd still like to get a sense of this. Steve, do you have a sense of it, or do we need to take another? We've been out there so many times. I just can't envision this particular lot.
I do not. I would love to know how many trees are in the green area between the green line and the erosion control barrier. That's really what we want to look for. What's in there and what will be cut. And let me just point that out on the plan if I can find I don't know if you can see the little plus sign there, but in between, the Cultec chamber roof drains and the erosion control, Jeff, right in this area.
Oh, yeah, I know. I understand what you're talking about. Obviously, you said if the
question.
commission feels that's what they want to see, then obviously we'll provide that information. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that would be useful, John, right in that area, certainly.
Oh, we can see it Saturday morning.
This is the area that's right up against Esther Jepson's house and garages.
I was going to ask you that. Is this like the backside of, what's the driveway? 153 side?
Down the long easement into
Yeah.
165. It's you go into a circle, right? And that easement veers off to the right. Okay. And that is lot 10.
Right. That would be the backside of lot 10. Yes.
Okay.
And that's where I'm concerned about mature trees getting clear cutted out of there. And I guess I know trees are going to have to go. Don't get me wrong. But if there's some of those older mature trees that can stay, it will make for a much less unsightly situation because I'm not criticizing the complex. I'm just saying the whole area is clear cut. So if we can save some of the edged older trees, it would make it much more appealing for everybody.
And that kind of harkens back to what we were saying, that we knew this area. These are very small lots. These lots have to sustain a house, a septic system, the driveway. We always knew that these lots were going to be cleared, and that was always made clear from day one. That's the whole idea of this cluster development. It's to centralize your disturbances and try not to spread this out so you're impacting even more buffer than need be. You keep your impacts in one area and leave the other areas alone. So on this large area, we've only cleared or disturbed what we had to do to get onto these small lots. So yeah, that was always part of it.
Okay.
I think you're both right. But I'd like to take a look, and I bet if there are some that you could see your way clear to saving, if there are older mature trees that would make sense for everybody to keep, including the homeowner.
No, of course, there's no issue.
All right, any other thoughts? Because my
Very much.
suggestion is we take a look at it Saturday morning. Is that acceptable to the commission?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, it won't take long, and we're certainly familiar with the area. Although I don't have a specific recollection of the mature trees in that area.
We'll all find out.
All right, so we should be there. I'm trying to think, we may be at Avenue A longer than some people think, but I would say 8:45 on Saturday morning.
All right. We'll see you then.
Beautiful. Okay, good. Thanks. I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Are there any other members of the public that would like to be heard or ask a question? All right, hearing none, we'll continue this until Saturday morning at 8:45.
Thank
right,
you
thanks all.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
All right, next on the agenda is request for certificate of compliance, 751 Blue Hill Avenue.
And Josh Green, are you there?
I'm here.
Right. Okay. I think this is the plan that you have, right?
I'm not seeing on your screen. I can share mine if you want.
Okay, if you have a screen to share, go right ahead.
I believe I do.
Okay. No, go right ahead. Yep, okay.
Assume everybody can see that.
Yeah, if zoom in, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the area of the work here, mostly the pool.
Right.
Could you just describe the work, Steve?
Yes, please.
So I think it was back in, sorry, let me get the exact date, 2016. Notice of intent was filed to propose the pool patio area around it, the fence, and some tree removal and planting. As part of that, there was the erosion control that was staked out along where the existing fence is. And the pool was installed in the area that it was proposed. The mechanical area isn't offsite. I believe it's closer to the house now. So that's further away from the resource. There was an existing shed back in this area between B9 and B10 currently. That is no longer there. That wasn't part of the notice of intent, but that has been removed as part of it. The only other deviation that we saw between the original plan for the notice of intent and the current conditions is the fence was expanded. We reviewed aerials. We weren't part of the original notice of intent plan, so we're not entirely sure. We weren't out there, but reviewing historical aerials of that time, it doesn't look like any trees were removed. The area was already cleared, so they just fenced the backyard. So it's larger. The fence is larger in an area than what was shown on the plan, but it doesn't look like they cleared vegetation to do so. That was all the work. I believe the two dead trees that were being removed were back in this area here, with one being kept in this area, which is now a landscaped area. Those would be the summary of the deviations between the original plan and what's currently out there.
I know these are separate applications, but I'd want to take a look at, I mean, there are deviations from what we permitted, as I understand it. And the fence is the fence in the wetlands?
It's not in the wetlands, it's just outside of it. It was, the wetland line looks to have shifted too. So keep that in mind as well, a little bit.
John, I should say that I was there last week looking at the wetlands line.
Yep.
And I would call it a conservative line.
Okay.
Which means it's more up gradient than many of us wetland scientists would have put in.
Yeah, and I think, Steve, I'm not entirely sure, you might know more. It's called out as a top of bank on the original plan.
Right. And this is called BVW, and there's really not a lot of BVW along this little reach of the stream at this location. Just to let people know of that.
Yeah, so what looks kind of, I think, as closer to the wetland, it's in the same vicinity. Like if the distance off the pool, the fence is relatively the same as what was proposed. It's more the resource area is shifted towards the pool.
That's correct.
So what did we permit? Was it I don't have a sense of where this house is. I know where 793 is Blue Hill Avenue.
This is the first house in that long driveway, John, just past the group home. It's just north, the driveway is just north of the group home. That way septic system was, upgrade to the septic system was permitted about 2 years ago.
And that's the driveway that has the culvert that went underneath?
That's correct, yes. With the wetland upgradient of the driveway, a larger wetland upgrade of the driveway and a smaller wetland downgrading of the driveway. That is correct.
All right, so the reason I'm looking at, then the pool, how long has the pool been there?
That was part of the permit in 2018.
If it was 2018, then we must have had some, so just help me and confirm for me that there's no discharge of chlorinated water or anything. Is this a closed system pool?
2016, I misspoke.
2016.
It's a saltwater pool. Is that a closed system, Josh? I think it is, right?
I'm not sure. I would assume so because I didn't see the mechanical area that you would normally see where you'd pump the system at the end or the pool at the end of the year.
Right. I didn't see it either when I inspected the area last week.
Yeah.
All right. But as I'm looking at the chart, it looks like they put the fence into our 25-foot non-disturbance zone. And I'm just guessing that that's all landscaped into our 25 non-disturbance.
It's lawn and some landscape in that area, but if you take the resource line that was on the approved plan back in 2016, it was outside of the 25 at that time.
Right.
All right. Do you have the original plan, Steve? I haven't seen the original.
No, I haven't seen the original plan.
All right.
Sorry.
Just to be clear, the delineation that you're showing right now, is this a redelineation?
Yes, because it's been more than 3 years since the last one, so we redid it.
All right. Well, I'd like to take a look at the old plan to make sure that, that I heard what you said, but that's I also heard what Steve said about it being a conservative designation, but 25 feet is a lot to move for a wetland in 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think it moved 25 feet, John.
Well,
yeah. So we need to look at the older plan and then maybe go out there again, and take a look.
So. Why don't we put this on the list for Saturday as well? Because I'd like to see that. I mean, I can't imagine, and it sounds like we did not permit, a landscape lawn and a fence in a 25-foot non-disturbance, not within the last 4 or 5 years. That would be hard to fathom.
I could overlay the two plans.
Yeah, if you could do that, Josh, that would be great.
Absolutely.
And make sure you include the previous wetland line that was approved.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Any other questions from commissioners? All right. So why,
John, I'll lower my hand. I had exactly the same question that you had.
all right. So why don't we table the certificate of compliance until we take a look at it and get the overlay plan from Joshua? And then move on to the notice of intent and see what that entails. That in fact could be affected by where the line is. I don't know. Let's get to that one and see what it is.
And Josh, do you have that available?
I do. I didn't know if we needed to do an introduction on the notice of intent or not.
Sure,
Yeah.
why don't you do that? Zoom in a little bit as well, please.
Laptop's a little slow.
Sure.
All right, so basically the same plan you were looking at, it's under existing additions. The proposed alterations to the site include an addition off of the, I believe, northwestern side of the existing single-family dwelling, and an expansion of the driveway here. The applicant's father-in-law utilizes a wheelchair, so the idea with this addition is to give him living space that is on the same elevation that he would be using the car. So that's why we're kind of going up the steep slope here, just to get him up onto that same elevation. That encompasses the actual addition for the residential area. There is also, under this notice of intent, a sports court here. Steve and I have discussed there's stone dust involved here, so it would not be permeable. That needs to be revised on the plan. We have a detail currently. Steve, I know I haven't provided it. I do have the PDF of it. Is it okay if I show that?
Yes, please.
So knowing that it's impervious now, we wanted to address some of the infiltration. So we were proposing a infiltration trench around the sports court that'll utilize basically a 10-inch lift of 3/4 to 1.5-inch crushed stone wrapped in filter fabric with 2 inches of pea stone above it. That'll provide some treatment of anything that might get onto the sports court and run into it, as well as allow for some infiltration on top of it. So basically, the sports court here, that'll be placed on the ground, excavated over gravel, and then a stone dust base with the plastic hex grids that go over that. And it'll have some geotextile fabric at the bottom just to give some stabilization. And then the trench will run along the perimeter of the entire sports court to just provide as much infiltration as possible in that area. Jump back to the plan. As far as infiltration and erosion control, there'll be a silt sock going along the down gradient perimeter of the work. The infiltration aspect of the site, there will be some runoff in the front here that doesn't go towards the street completely. So there's a trench drain in front of the garage to protect that area. That will come down to a dry well. The roof drains will also be tied into that dry well, and just as an emergency storage, it'll go to the fence, stay within the existing lawn area for excavation, and have a riprap splash pad, which the detail is over here. It'll just be an outflow with the pipe with some riprap stone and crushed stone underneath it, 1.5-inch crushed stone, 3-inch to 4-inch stone, just to prevent any erosion in that area. Like I said, the erosion control will go along the down gradient side, wrapping up over here just because we're close to a high point on this side of any erosion going that way. I do want to make note there is an erosion control area that goes into the 25-foot area. It's proposed to be revegetated. I would love to be optimistic and say that the proposed house here won't encroach at all. There is a small buffer, but I'd rather be forward and say that that area may be needed just as a temporary disturbance, not a long-term disturbance. It can be revegetated with either the plants that are disturbed or new native species. But I'd rather bring it up now than have it come up later. And with that, that's the proposed conditions. I'll take any questions.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, Josh. That, that if you need construction activity in that area, you've got some temporary disturbance zone.
there is the trees as well. We have some of them. There is some up in this ledge area that I know our original survey didn't get. So we need to add those as well in this area here. Steve, I tried bringing it up. The site didn't exactly lend itself to planting trees everywhere. I didn't know about that tree bank. All the other projects we've done had been swapping plants in other areas on the site. So that sounds like a solution here.
Yes.
For that, like I said, I hadn't had it shown because I wanted to have the conversation. I was struggling a little bit to find spots on the site to propose enough trees. So that'll definitely be part of the plan as well.
Yeah, so what the next plan should show is existing trees that will be replaced in some manner. How's that?
Yep, absolutely.
Steve, to what extent you said that the line is conservative.
Yeah. I would say 5 feet, something like that, on that order. My opinion in that area. It's a very difficult area to walk through and to get through. Just for your information, a lot of multiflora rows and other things that are very sharp. And I should tell you that there's lots of mosquitoes there too. So bring your mosquito repellent.
Bug net and chaps, got it.
Exactly, and Felco #2s.
Okay.
But yeah, generally 5 to 10 feet, probably up gradient. Further up gradient than I would have put the line. It's past the top of slope, and there's really not a lot of BVW along that. Again, that stream reach. The stream comes out of a large wet meadow up gradient, which is really, really a beautiful spot. A little further up gradient, and then it's channelized. It was channelized many years ago, probably by a farmer at one time. And you can see even the existing berms were anthropomorphic, and tossed up on the sides of the streams, both sides actually. And there's a small waterfall because the stream has been blocked, I guess, around B10 in that area, I believe it is. B9 or B10, maybe B9. So there's probably a 1 foot waterfall in the stream itself because of blockages. There was a question?
Yeah, there is a question for me. Josh, I'm just looking at this and I see the garage. I mean, the fact that you're right up next to the 25 foot, touching it. And alteration area, even if it's temporary, will have to go into our 25 foot non-disturbance zone. Can you move the whole thing to the right? I say thing, I'm talking about the whole addition.
The addition. I can certainly talk to the architect about it. I believe there's some site constraint on the slope. It would pinch us a little bit. That slope going up the driveway is definitely tight, but we're going to be making revisions, so I might as well ask the question to the architect.
Okay.
We absolutely will.
All right.
And the overflow discharge, is that within the grass?
Yeah, so the idea there was just to have the pipe end and that kind of slope that you see here, this here going on the riprap. The fence would be, I can add the fence to the detail so it's a little clearer, but that existing fence would be right about here, probably just on the other side of it. But so that way the excavation would only go to the pipe, and then you're just laying in the stone to dig out just for that. So it'd be ending right at that fence, staying within the lawn area. Yes.
Yeah, but the lawn area is in our 25 foot. I mean, am I correct? That lawn area is inside the 25 foot non-disturbance.
That's correct. It's
John, it may have been pre-existing before the 2016.
Yeah, this is Bruce Hiles. Can you hear me? Yeah, that lawn was there, and there was also a shed there. The shed abutted the lawn, etc. So that, with the exception of the fence, the lawn was there and probably a little bit bigger.
Yeah, this is why we want to see previous,
2016. Right.
yeah, the NOI plans to see what was approved and what was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my impression that it's probably a pre-existing lawn, John.
It's
Okay, we can see it Saturday morning. All right.
Good.
Any questions from commissioners? Are there abutters or members of the public that have a question, a comment, a suggestion? Hearing none, can we continue this matter with the assent of the applicant until Saturday, the 14th at, we better be careful, probably it's gonna be about 10:30. I'm sorry, it should be 9:30. I dropped an hour because we moved it back. We're starting at 8. So we should be there by 9:30.
You know, the last one was at 8:45, John.
Yeah, we should be able to make that easy. I don't think the others-
Wentworth was 8:45,
Bruce, does that work for you?
Sure.
9:30.
All right, great. Then we'll continue this until Saturday, the 14th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Yep. Okay, so next is not much to share.
All right, next on the agenda is, that was 6 and 7. Now we go to request for determination of applicability at 17 Brookside. And then 9 is also a request for determination of applicability, 17 Brookside.
This is the one we're gonna deny, right? Just kidding.
You want to start that again? I'll go all night, GB.
Sorry.
Okay, what's the first one? Is what? You're on. If you could just give us a presentation as to what the purpose of the request for determination of applicability is.
Well, I think, I mean, I don't really feel a need to have to go through this whole detailed thing. We spent 2 hours talking about it in the June meeting. And then you guys came out and did your site visit. We explained to you all of the maintenance and repairs that were made in the backyard, as well as replacing an existing fence. And so I thought through the discussions that we've already had, that we've clarified all of your questions and concerns.
Understood, but my question was for the benefit of the public. This is a request for determination of applicability, and it's a public meeting, so the public needs to know what the request is. You are correct. We know.
Right.
The public doesn't.
Okay.
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 So this is
Well,
a request. It's essentially a retroactive request to extend the fence to the property line and to, I've got the wrong one. Repave the driveway.
Yeah, so the first item is the maintenance and repairs in the backyard.
Could you explain it a little bit more?
No, wait 1 second. Explain what exactly, because I spent 2 hours in the last meeting explaining it in a public meeting. Then there was a site visit that was very lengthy where we explained everything that was done. So I don't really understand the purpose for the first item only of rehashing all of that conversation tonight.
So, yeah, and if you don't mind, I can explain. So because this is the after the fact filing for a notice of intent, even though we all know exactly what it is and what it's for, this is for the public record of the application, just verifying that this is the same thing that we're talking about, that this is what matches up with this piece of paper. It's not that we have to do this every time. It's nothing that's being, this is what we have to do for our standard every time a notice of intent or a request for determination is before us. So even though we all know exactly what it is, we just need you to provide us a quick explanation. I think you've already done it. Just name the things that's covered under the application. And it's not for our benefit, it's just for the public record benefit.
Okay, we replaced an existing fence and repaired a broken walkway in the backyard.
Excellent, thank you.
And just to be sure, there are the two documents, and this one that is being referred to is the one dated July 2, 2021. So we have everybody has the correct document for them.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct. Because I had
John?
the packet. They're backwards. So the repair, when you say the walkway, is that like the patio area where the fire pit was, or whatever it's called?
Yeah, everything that you guys saw, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And did you have to remove any trees from the area near the brook to repair the fence?
There was a tree that had fallen, and there's been subsequent trees that have fallen, which I have pictures of, if you would like to see those.
No, if you say that they were fallen and you remove the debris, that's fine. That falls into the maintenance area. But for the public's benefit, because the property abuts the brook, which is a perennial stream, it is jurisdictional, and we have to take a look at it, and the homeowner allowed us to take a look at it. So the commission has been on site. We've seen it. The fence looks appropriate. It does abut the brook, but there was an existing fence there. So I think the easiest, well, I should ask, are there any questions from commission members? Or are there any questions or comments from abutters or members of the public? Hearing none, it appeared to me that this is jurisdictional, but oftentimes what we do in these circumstances is issue a negative determination with conditions, and the conditions are that the stream be protected. So we're kind of after the fact on that, but I did not see, I looked over the fence, I did not see any debris in the river, the brook. So it appears that we could issue a negative determination with our usual conditions. And those usual conditions, again, for the public record, is that you can't park or refuel hydraulic equipment overnight within our jurisdiction. I don't think you did that. It's not there. We didn't see it anyway. So I would suggest that a negative determination would be appropriate with our usual conditions.
On that note, Mr. Chairman, I'll move for a negative determination.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Hans, thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. So that's a negative determination. That is the first agenda item, which is number 8. And now we go to number 9, which is a request for determination of applicability at the same address. And can you tell us what that proposal is?
So all we want to do is have the ability to repave our driveway. And so our driveway that we use is the one between us and number 15. If you need to see pictures or anything like that, if you enable my screen sharing capability, I can show you pictures.
Well, looking at your house, which side is 15 on it? Is that driveway on the right?
Yeah, the house to the right.
Okay.
And then between us and number 19, that's where we want to extend the property line. So we want to take the fence over to the property line. I know that Ms. Bowen did send you a copy of the proposed work from our contractor, our landscaper, of what that would entail. So it's just basically moving the fence, the existing fence now over, and maintaining so where you'll see the boundary, you'll see those survey markers. He's going to leave a couple of inches so you always see the survey markers, and then extend the fence just so now that the property line is defined and there's no issue with the driveway and whose side is which and all of that. And then also he will be bringing the fence a little bit further down to the edge, closer to the street, so that the whole property line is more defined as well. I did speak to Joe Prondak, and he said that there is no easement on either side.
Of Brookside Park?
No, between us and 15 and us and 19, there's no easement. I also,
Okay,
sent-
I
I also, yeah, I sent, I did send Miss Bowen those documents as well. You should have a copy of those. So you should have a copy of our deed, the deed for number 15, and also the deed for number 19.
And when you put the fence in on the left side, which would be on the number 19 side,
Mhm.
is part of the fence going in to the existing driveway? Did we freeze? Did I freeze? I lost
I'm
everybody.
sorry, broke up. Can you repeat that, Mr. Kieran? Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit.
Sure. Is the fence going to go into what is now part of an existing driveway on the left side of your house, the number 19 side?
Yes.
Right. And is that, you said you have a survey of where your property line is?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, so we don't get involved in property disputes. That's not part of our jurisdiction, but is that an issue of dispute?
Well, it depends on how you define an issue of dispute. If you had a hostile neighbor, and you were just not wanting to have to think about years down the road of whether we sell or whether this other person sells, not having it be an issue, whose property is whose, we just want a clear definition of, I don't like the word dispute. We just want a resolution. We want a clear definition of what the property line is so that there's no more interaction, especially any negative interaction.
Okay, I understand that entirely. It's just that we don't have jurisdiction over property disputes. We just have it over issues relating to the, environmental resources that we protect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
having
the reason why,
having
yeah.
said that, if an applicant comes in and asks us to approve a project on their property, we can do so, or within our discretion, we could allow it. But we can't allow an applicant's project on somebody else's property. So what I'm trying to do
But
is anticipate.
It's not her property, it's our property. We're extending the fence to our property line.
And that's
There's
what
no-
I asked. That's all I was asking, is as to whether or
Okay.
not there's any dispute as to where the property line is.
No, because we've had a survey done, so
Okay.
I think if there was, we haven't heard from that neighbor. To the contrary, that person hasn't sought out their own survey. That person hasn't approached us about that in particular being an issue. So if there were a dispute, I would have expected to have heard from that person, and also for that person to have attended this meeting, since this is where this originated. She's the one who began this whole complaint process, which is why we're here tonight. And so I would expect that if there were an actual dispute over it, that she would be here to explain that to you herself. So to me, the fact that she didn't do that,
We have the survey. It's very clear.
It would
Yeah.
be very helpful to us so that we're clear that we're not approving a project that's beyond your property. If we had the survey, we'd be very pleased.
I did send in the survey, and I have it pulled up on my screen. If someone wants to enable my screen sharing capability, I can show you right now.
Steve, I don't know if you can do that or if Sean can do that. I don't know if Sean's still.
It already is enabled.
All right, you're all set to go.
Okay.
Thank you. Desktop.
Okay.
We have not seen this yet, John. This is the first we're seeing the survey,
Okay.
as far as I know.
I showed you, well, I showed it during the site walk. I had, you know, I've had this survey since
Ma'am,
March 27th.
I was not on the sidewalk.
If you could submit a copy of this, if you haven't already, as part of the RDA, that would help to just consistency, again, for the record, to show that, you know, where you're planning to put the fence. Usually we ask for some sort of markup plan or something like that. So this would be very helpful to sort of depict where that, help to depict where that fence is going to go.
Okay, but what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, that your role is to make sure that the fence isn't affecting the brook, correct? So that's,
Our concern is a little bit different than that.
okay.
You've been asked to approve a project. We have to make sure that the applicant has confined the project to his or her own property. We can't approve a project that is on somebody else's land. So if you give us the survey would give us the confidence that your project is on your land, then everybody's happy.
Well,
Okay,
here's the
so-
survey, and then we also have pictures that we can show you of the survey markers, and we can show you right now exactly where it would go, if you would like to see that.
Yeah,
John?
if we could, for the record, just if you could email that PDF to Kathy, just so we have it.
Sure. And you can see here that this line on the left-hand side that we're hovering over, that's the property line.
Okay.
So that's where the fence would go, of course, on our side of the property line. And we could also share with you pictures if you'd like to see where the survey markers are, so you can have an idea.
So here's where I'm at with this, everyone. You know, we spent $300 already on this process. What I'm asking tonight is this going to require another meeting, another hearing, another filing, sending out 13 or 14 more butters letters again, which cost me $100 to be able to do that, which also entailed strangers, people I didn't know, pulling up in front of my house the last couple of weeks to take a look at me wanting to repave the driveway or do other things. What is the answer to that question? Are we now going to have to repeat this again? That was the point of me putting all of this in this meeting tonight, so that we could lower our expenses with this and also just get a clear answer. I spoke to you about this when you were on the property. I've sent in these documents. So I would just like a clear answer on what is left in this process for us.
For us to determine whether or not there should be a negative or a positive determination. Now, as I'm reading from the Nichols landscaping estimate,
Yeah.
we're talking about installing I'm not sure what the word pruning means. That's why I'm hesitating. It says installation of a new 3-foot tall spaced white vinyl picket fence, Chestnut Hill VCH 2, installed starting 3 feet off the street and then pruning down the left property line, 15 feet to a solid vinyl 3-foot to 6-foot slope panel.
Okay, so that means, so right now the fence is 6 feet. We don't think it's appropriate to bring a 6-foot fence all the way down to the street. So at a certain point, it will slope to 3 feet so that it's a much more attractive look aesthetically. That's what pruning it down means.
Okay.
Also, not tree pruning.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
But if we were,
very interesting.
but if we were tree pruning, those are trees that weren't pre-existing that I planted in my yard. So
landscape trees, that'd be exempt.
Right.
Then it says the post will be installed in concrete and then the fence sections will be installed into the posts, priced by the lineal foot. When you get near the brook, do you have a sense of how this concrete, I mean,
We're
it's
not-
only going to be digging and putting concrete footings in?
We're not near the brook. You've already seen what was near the brook. That's what, would you like to see a photo? I think that would be helpful.
And just let me just describe how the post
It's 200 feet from the brook.
Let me, let me just describe how it works when they make the post. They
Okay.
basically have a shovel that's a two-sided shovel, and they dig a hole that's probably about a foot in diameter. And then they basically put the post in, and then they put the concrete in. So it's a very contained space. It's very small. It's just literally a hole in the ground that they dig in a narrow space to put the post in.
They're not using machines, is what you're saying.
Correct. There is no machines. It's just manual labor with a shovel.
Okay. And if you could, with your cursor, point to where that extension is going to go, start and end at.
Can I actually, let me pull up an actual photo. I think that might be helpful for the, you know, just the visual.
Yeah.
Let
So
me go.
yeah. Okay.
But
And
if
just
you want to show here, go ahead.
just so it's here on this. So you see here, this is the front
Yes.
edge of the house.
Yep.
Okay. So then it's basically pruning and the landscapers were but graduating down, and then we'll go down here along the left-hand side of the yard.
And where your cursor is now, if I may, that's where we saw the survey mark
Yes.
at the front of your home. So John, can we not move on this in the context of the professional land surveyor's plan dated March 2021?
Oh, sure. We should.
Good.
Yeah, because that is why we need it, and we see it here. And if we can add this to our record, I don't know if Steve, if you can, you know, capture that and print it for the hard copy file, that would be important to us.
So we could have a negative determination pending the receipt of the copy of the plan that we're viewing here.
Yes, that would be the way to go.
There we go.
The conditions with the negative determination would be that the post holes have to be filled, you know, within the same day. What we're worried about is if there's an opening, we don't want sedimentation going into the brook. It's easy, as you said, it's just digging a hole, putting the post in, pouring concrete in, filling it back up. It's pretty simple, but you'll see a negative determination with conditions. And the condition would be that you can't leave an open hole overnight with, you know, piles of dirt that could wash into the brook. Pretty simple. And it's done in all cases.
Okay.
Are there any other special conditions to accompany a negative determination? I can't think of any because there's no equipment there. Wendy?
I can't think of any either.
Okay, then is there a motion to issue a negative determination with a special condition being that the post holes will not be left open overnight?
So moved.
Thank you, Hans. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, Wendy, you take the second.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing, I did ask, I think, if there were any abutters or members of the public that had a comment, a question, would like to make a suggestion. Hearing none, then we'll go to the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's a negative determination. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
Right, next on the agenda, we have 36 Chesterfield Road.
Hi.
Hey, good evening.
I have my camera turned on. I don't know if you can see me or not.
We can see you, but we're still looking at the survey. Steve, are you able to take that down?
That
Take
was,
it
yep,
down. Thanks.
yep, that was Sean. Yep, thank you, Sean.
Oh, Sean, thanks. All right, we're good. Welcome, sir. Can you tell us what this is?
Sure. We're putting an addition on our home. It's a two-story addition with a full foundation. And I think we're 150 feet from the brook. So that's why we filed for the application.
All right, and are you done? Have you finished? This is another one of those retroactive RDAs.
Yes.
Just finished.
We're not finished, but the foundation's been poured, the walls are up. They're just, they're waiting for the windows and, but it's all of the digging and major construction is already done. It's just more putting up the outside stuff. And doing
So has it been backfilled so that there's no?
Yes, there's no more hole, no more giant hole.
Okay. That was my concern. And it didn't look, just from our perspective, you were within the 150 feet of the brook, so it's jurisdictional. But we didn't see any way that the debris was gonna, flow off of your land, cross the street, and then flow across the other land and into the brook. But nevertheless, we requested and you agreed to file this RDA. And thank you very much for doing that. That helps us. It helps make a public record. So my only concern was the hole. Have there been any problems with the trees? Because I know that when the excavator, basically dug down, it looked like some roots were exposed. Do you know if those?
There was one tree that we had taken down before construction began because it was going to disrupt the root system. But other than that, everything else is fine.
And how big a tree was that?
It was a pretty big tree.
And is that in the area where the house actually is, the addition?
Yeah, it was in our backyard, maybe about 10 feet from the addition. But given the size of the tree, they said would have to come down because the root system was well into the foundation.
All right. I think to be consistent, we could issue a negative determination, but one of the special conditions might be to replace the tree. What's your, I don't know how big your backyard is. Do you have a place to plant another tree?
Sure, we're actually we're going to have the stump ground down, and we could put another tree right there. I think if we could dig down a little bit from that. So sure, yeah, we have room.
All right, we have a performance standard that's changed. It used to be 3 to 1. You plant 3 trees for 1 tree. Some people don't have the space to do it. That's, you may have heard earlier, we were talking about this virtual tree bank that we have. If there's not enough space, you could certainly do that. We have a new standard, which is based upon essentially the circumference of the tree. The problem is we don't have your tree, so we don't know what the circumference was. So it might be appropriate, and somebody else can weigh in on this. We're kind of guessing at the size of the tree.
I'm not home, or I'd run out with the tape measure right now. Sorry. The stump is still there, so I could have it measured.
Okay. All right, if you could do that, and then what we'd like to do is have the tree replaced with the, it's the sum of the replacement trees. So like if you had 3 4-inch trees, you put them together, that would be 12 inches. So if the big tree that you removed was 12 inches, then you'd replace it with 4 3-inch trees.
Okay.
Go like that.
Yeah, I don't think we have room in our backyard for more than 1 tree.
And that's why we have that virtual tree bank, because it's a pretty common factor. That's just what we do.
Okay.
That's our performance standard. It's been that way for decades. So if you could submit that and then agree to plant a tree in your backyard, and if you don't have room for 2 other trees, I can't think of anything else other than using the old standard of 3 to 1, because we don't know the circumference, unless we want to wait for Mr. Linane to give us a measure.
So, there's one thing that I think we should keep in mind is that, I mean, this is across the street with additional properties on the other side of the street and with the resource area on the side of that. So, I think that the effect to the resource area is somewhat minimal. So, I'm okay with using the old standard in this case.
And John, I would agree with that entirely.
Okay, good with me. But as long as we apply some standard so that we're consistent and uniform in our application.
So what would my next step be then regarding that? Just plant a tree?
screen sharing. Do we need that anymore? I'm just trying to find Mr. Linane as to, is he still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, there you are. Okay. I got you. All right, does that all make sense to you? So what I suggest is that we issue a negative determination for the RDA, which is kind of a retroactive nod that we would have done it in the first place had you come to us. With the one proviso, the one condition is that you replace the tree that you took down with 3 smaller trees. And Steve and Kathy can assist you in. If you only have room for one, then Steve and Kathy's not here, but you may have spoken with her, Kathy.
Yep,
Owen.
absolutely. Very helpful. Yes.
So she's the one that can tell you how to make a contribution to the tree bank. It's not really a bank, but it's an inventory of trees that we keep on hand. And those trees are actually used by the DPW to plant throughout the town.
Okay. Okay.
All
All right.
right.
So I would just get in touch with Kathy.
Yes.
Okay, I can do that.
Now, any other questions from commissioners? Are there abutters or members of the public that have a question or comment? Hearing none, is there a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability with a condition that we use the old standard of tree replacement? And if there's not room in the area, the landscape, then that Mr. Linane can utilize the virtual tree bank.
So moved.
Thanks, Arthur. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thanks, Wendy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Linane, and thank you for your courtesy throughout this.
All right, folks. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, good night. Okay, next on the agenda is
Canton Avenue.
Camden Avenue. This one has been continued for 9/14 at the request of the applicant. Next is 12, request for determination of applicability is 1259 Brush Hill Road.
Oh, sorry. Wrong one up.
Say
Wrong
again?
one up on the screen. Sorry, wrong one up on the screen. Wrong
Oh,
one. 1259. 1259.
How you doing? This is Matt Scheller. So this is basically just a repaving of my driveway. 100-foot section is within the wetland buffer. It's next to a stream. So the thought would be to do a silt fence or wattle along the stream size of the brook and repave and keep all refueling out of that area.
Okay.
And I am.
Yeah, you have a.
Steve,
can you share
Yeah.
that?
I just had it up on the screen and I have lost it. One moment, I've got to find it again, okay? Yep, just number 12. That was number 12. 12 has disappeared from my screen for some reason, but I know where I've got it. Another location. One moment. That's the form itself.
Matt, while he's looking at that, we had this before and there was a discussion and I'm trying to figure out why we continued this.
We didn't have a plan to look at, John.
We did not have the plan.
Right.
Yeah, I had the old survey markers. Steve and I met, walked the site. He requested that I have just update the wetland markers. Pretty, consistent of where we were before, and definitely within the buffer zone.
There we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good. So there's a zoomed in version. And there's another plan. There's the outer zoomed out version. The work is in this area. Is that correct, Matt? Right in here.
I'm actually on the phone right now, but I'm assuming you're looking at the right area.
It's bounded by a blue and a yellow line. This is the area of proposed work. Is that correct, or does it go all the way around outside the buffer?
No, just that area right there
right. Okay. Let me
the
zoom
front
in.
door.
Yep.
Front door to Hemingway Drive area.
Right.
So
Okay.
Not shifting the driveway at all. It's just 30 years old and needs to be replaced.
Are you replacing the entire driveway? Is my question.
I will be all the way around.
All the way around. Okay. The area that is highlighted is in the buffer zone. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Here we go. Okay. Sorry. There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's useful. Yeah. Just there we go. That's it right there.
And the erosion controls are what? What are you using?
I propose either silt fence or wattle, whatever straw wattle, whatever you prefer.
Steve, your preference?
For this area, this is almost down gradient of the wetlands. So I would say silt fence just a little bit dug in would be fine.
Yeah.
I don't see any problems with that at all. I don't anticipate an issue.
No, and obviously we'll keep this to a good stretch of weather, so not too, don't want to pave this or do this work when it's wet. So.
All right. The only thing I'd like to see on the silt fence is that it in fact is dug in, because I've seen so many of them that just, flopping in the breeze. But if you have the contractor dig them in, it makes a big difference.
There is a bit of it's kind of a built up stone area, so I'm not sure that I'd be able to dig the silt fence in all that well.
Well, just to keep it down, you could actually put stones on top of it.
Got it. Perfect. We can do that.
Right.
All right. Anything? I'm certainly familiar with the area. We've been there a lot over the years. But
a couple times.
A couple of times, yeah. But the other commissions may have questions on the area. It's a very sensitive area, and we actually heard from DCR this morning, and they were doing management in the same area. Any questions from commissioners? Are there abutters or members of the public that have a question or a comment or would like to make a suggestion? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to issue a negative determination for the RDA with the proviso and the condition that the silt fence be used for erosion controls and that it be in some fashion affixed to the ground, whether it's to dig in or whether to put boulders or rocks on top of it just to keep it down. And anything else, any other conditions that anyone would like to add? Hearing none, is there a motion to issue that negative determination with the condition as stated? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Wendy, thanks. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ingrid. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, unanimous. That's good, Matt. Thank you very much. That's a negative
All
determination.
right. I appreciate your time. Thank you all.
All right, thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Bye-bye.
Next on the agenda is 0 Truman Highway.
Here we go. Here we go. And Tony, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. And Rich Kirby, is that correct?
Yes, we are here.
And
And
can you
also-
see
and also-
what I have on the screen?
And also Ron, our contractor, should be in.
Okay, Ron Bussier?
Yes.
I don't see him.
He has trouble with technology, so.
Right.
That's why he's a contractor and he can hire other people to do that stuff.
Maybe if you rotate your, the plan a little, Steve.
Really difficult for me to rotate the plan.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. But I can move it up and down and I can move it back and forth. Oh, maybe just up and down, I think. But
Okay.
Tony, while Steve's doing that, how's deer season this year?
You talking to me?
Yes.
The last time we were out there, we saw a deer by the underpass.
Oh, yes. So that, there was a dead deer. That's what you're talking about?
It sure was.
I remember that.
That was removed.
Good.
you can see the underpass at the top of the screen right there.
Yep.
You got it.
Okay, and then there's another access way. Which
Down
is up
south.
there. Yep, south. This is to the south. So north is to the bottom of the screen.
No, north is really to your right.
Yeah,
Right.
north is to the right. Steve, if you go to view in the top left corner, can you rotate the image that way?
Thank you very much.
Go down, rotate view, and
let's go clockwise and see what happens. Yep, well, let's do that again, huh?
yeah, two more times.
Yeah, a few more times. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that.
So, Mr. Chairman, did you want me to
One more
give a
time.
brief overview of where we're at?
Yes, indeed. That would be great, Rich.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm Rich Kirby from LEC, and of course, Tony Caruso from the Mackin Group. And we had filed a notice of intent back in May of 2019 for the demolition of the burnt out, dilapidated structures that were on this property. And we had detailed those in a set of plans prepared by Meridian Associates. All the work has been completed, and Meridian Associates went out and did their survey, created an as-built plan, and indicated in their letter that everything's been done in substantial compliance with the order. If the commission recalls, there was an old burnt out building that the town really was trying to get us to remove, and we successfully did that. We also removed some of the other structures. If the commission recalls, the walls of the water tank, the rectangular clarifier, and a lot of the concrete that could be used as fill was put into the lagoon. The lagoon was broken up, and the rebar mesh that was in there was removed. And of course, erosion controls were up the entire time to protect the Neponset River, and they held up pretty well. We didn't see any evidence of any outwash or breakout, anything there. And at this point, we're all done. The site is totally stabilized with bark mulch. So we should be good to go as we move forward with the design for permitting with for the project.
Steve, have you had a chance to inspect the site?
Absolutely. I did it. Was it last week we were out there?
Yes.
Yes, I believe it was last week, Steve, and I know that you've been involved along the way, visiting the site on and off to make
And
sure.
I've been very, very happy with the results, particularly since the erosion controls by the river held up extremely well. And they're still holding up presently, and they're going to be kept in place until at least the development starts, probably 1 or 2 years from now, I would imagine.
All right. Is there any maintenance required for that, Steve, for those?
Say again?
Is there any maintenance required to maintain those erosion controls for the next couple of years?
Not much, not much. They're going to be staying right there where they are, I think. To date, we see very few tears actually in the erosion controls. Would you agree with that, Rich?
Yeah, I think they look pretty good based on our site walk. And of course, the bark mulch that's on the site is going to help absorb any of the rainwater that would otherwise, have a tendency to collect and gain some velocity and head down toward the river. I think it's pretty well stabilized at this point.
Agreed.
And were you talking about a silk fence, Steve?
No, these are 12-inch, are they 12 inch?
Yeah,
12-inch compost socks and silk fence.
yeah, both.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you said tears, what were you referring to, Steve?
In the compost sock is what I'm referring to, tears in the compost sock. There are a few tears on the top of the compost sock.
All right.
It's filled with bark mulch.
Right.
And do we have, I'm looking for a certification from a PE of substantial compliance.
Yes, you have that.
Because that's what I'm looking for right now.
Yep, I can share my screen if you like, Mr. Chairman.
Please do that, Rich, if you have it right there.
Yep.
Thank you.
You'll have to stop sharing your screen. Okay, there we go.
I did, yep.
Let's see here. Okay. So here is the letter from Meridian Associates regarding the certificate of compliance request. They filled out the certificate of compliance request form and indicate in this letter that the demolition has been performed in accordance with the approved plans, and they go on to list the things that were done. And it's, please refer to the accompanying signed as-built plan that depicts the completed work. And David Kelly over at Meridian Associates signed that.
All right, thank you very much. That's what we need. Are there any questions from commissioners?
No.
Are there any abutters or members of the public that would like to ask a question, make a comment? Hearing none,
Hang on a second, hang on. Tom Palmer has a hand up. Tom, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hand, can you hear me?
Yes, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah, that is my neighborhood, and I did observe the work. And I noticed that this letter here says that the building has been removed. My question is, from my knowledge of the site, there was a lot of the building that was below grade, that was indicated by concrete slabs and steel plates and curious holes going straight down in the ground. My question is, what has been done with those subsurface structures?
You want me to answer that? Or
Tony, I think it would be best if you answered that. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, on the plan submitted, you'll see it indicates foundation remnants below grade, the below grade about from grade down about 4 feet. The concrete walls are still there. The cost of this project was about twice anticipated. So everything was taken off above grade. The only place that on the big long dotted line, you can see that it's 250, yeah, that's it. That's 250 feet long and 50 feet wide. There is a below grade foundation wall there. It's about 2 feet below grade, but then goes 2 feet below the surface and down about 4 feet below that. And that is still there. We deliberately left that there because when we actually build on this project, that will all have to come out.
Right, and we were also, as part of the notice of intent, trying to minimize our footprint, if you will, on the property. And we didn't want to have a whole lot of grading and excavation and earth movement. The point of this exercise was really to just simply remove the structures and the frankly the safety concern associated with the site.
Do you know if there are any voids remaining below grade, like basements, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, there are none. That's the only below grade point, is that dotted line there, or it says that that's just a more or less a footing that goes around.
About the circular concrete slab that was the unfinished tank, is that still there?
Yeah, the slab is still there.
So when you say remove the building, you really meant remove the portions that were above the ground.
Yes, but we actually, you can't do that as cleanly as you would like. We actually had to go down about a foot to hammer the walls and then take them down. So it is slightly a foot or so below the grade level.
All right, thank you. That was my question.
Okay. And that was, I mean, as the original permit, we did not, is my memory is we did not require any removal of subsurface foundation walls.
That's right. That was a limitation on our original application. We actually threw the money into erosion control. It cost us a lot. We just mulched the whole site from A to Z, and that was expensive.
All right. So if in fact there is some delay in building a new project, do you have some kind of a O&M plan to maintain those erosion controls? To replace, if necessary, the silt socks, I mean, the mulch socks and silt fence?
Well, Rich, you want to answer that?
Yeah,
or-
I mean, I think, Tony, you're, as the owner of the property, you guys are going to keep an eye on it. If you like, Mr. Chairman, I suppose the Mackin Group could report back to you after, I don't know, every 6 months or so. I really don't think there's much of an erosion potential on this site. Again, because the whole site's been stabilized and the erosion controls are in pretty good shape. But every 6 months or so, if that makes sense to you or Steve, maybe Tony could take some pictures and email them over to Steve just to show that things are still stabilized over there.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Steve, do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
How about every year? Instead of every 6 months?
How about 6 months? Come on, 6 months is not bad. You gotta take some pictures. I'll buy the film for you.
How about once in the spring and once in the fall, perhaps, starting in 2022?
Okay,
That makes sense.
That's good.
just photographs, that's all you're requiring? Okay,
But if there is deterioration, we'd want some repair.
yeah, that's understandable.
And I think I would concentrate on the areas that are the steepest slopes that go down to the erosion controls.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Right, where water would go if it were to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions from commissioners? And we've asked for members of the public, and we thank Tom Palmer for his questions. With that said, I'd invite a motion to issue a certificate of compliance on the condition of an ongoing plan to ensure that the erosion controls stay in place until the next project is completed. Is there such a motion? If there's no
So moved.
motion, you can't move. What's that?
It's so moved.
All right, thanks, Arthur. Is there a second to Arthur's motion? Thanks, Ingrid. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. It's unanimous. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Yep.
151 Woodland.
Next on the agenda is 151 Woodland Road. And if anybody's looking at the agenda, most of the rest of them have been continued, so not to worry. This is 151 Woodland Road.
And Deb Keller is here.
Yep.
Hey, good evening.
Hi, Deb.
Good evening. Deb Keller with Merrill Engineers. I realize my name says Josh Green. He was in here sooner and I finished my meeting, so I got to join you guys.
Good.
Great.
So as mentioned, we're requesting a certificate of compliance for the property located at 151 Woodland Road. The application was filed on behalf of the owners, Jenna and Michaela Vandermoos, who have recently purchased the property. I believe the order of conditions was issued to the developer at the time. As stated, we have gone out and completed a full site as-built as well as a site inspection of the property, and we actually were involved throughout the process with installing utilities and making sure things were constructed appropriately. Of note, as I believe everybody will recall, the discussions that we had during the construction process with regards to tree removal. So we did propose a certain number of trees to be removed and had those highlighted on the proposed plan. As we reviewed the as-built, it was pleasantly surprised to see that 3 of the living trees that were anticipated to be removed were actually retained on site, which I've identified in the rear yard. With that has reduced the number of required trees, resulting in only 9 tree mitigation installation, of which the site has installed 13 new trees, 6 deciduous and 7 evergreen among the tree population that was installed. The only other thing of note that we found during the as-built and site walk was that the patio area in the back was slightly increased by approximately a 10 by 10 area between the patio and the bulkhead up against the home itself, and it was supporting a portable swimming pool at the time. Other than that, the landscaping in the back, the limit of grading tree line was conservative. It was pulled in some areas, and the lawn is established with vegetation. And I did meet Steve Ivis out on site, and we did walk the site with the property owner, showing them certain vegetation that was becoming established on the site. We did fill out the WPA Form A plan and provided site photos with the request.
I just had a question about the location of that 10 by 10 slab.
Sure.
Where is that?
So
It's, let's see, it's
right there, right
here.
where Steve's arrow is now. Yes.
Right there, right against the house.
I'm trying to match what I've got in my hand to where you're.
Look for the rear of the house, John. It's actually in the center of the rear of the house.
It should fall right between the proposed patio area with the fire pit and the bulkhead. I believe
Right.
that's.
Yes, I think it is. I'm sorry, I haven't figured out how to zoom in on this particular plan.
Near the proposed planting bed?
Yes.
Oh, here we go, zoom 2. Here we go, here we go. Let's zoom in. There we go. I'm sorry. There we go. There it is right there.
Oh.
Right?
That's the LS means landscaping bed. So
I'm
in
sorry,
between
so
the landscape, yes, exactly.
Right
That
here,
would be the
right
area.
here. It's a square 10 by 10, John, right there.
Next to the proposed planting bed?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I had no trouble with it myself.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure somebody didn't put it in our 25-foot non-disturbance zone. I didn't know where it was. Is there a picture of it? Because I know you've got a bunch of pictures. It would be the back of the house?
Yes, there is a picture in the series of pictures. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it's photo 6. shows the patio area.
Yeah.
It has a picnic table located on it in the photo.
Oh, and that's the slab that you're referring to, or is that the patio?
That's the increased patio area that was not on the proposed plan that is, was constructed.
And that isn't a poured slab, is it, Deb? I think it was blocks, wasn't it?
Block, yes, it's
was
block.
block.
It's not a poured concrete. It is not poured concrete.
Right.
Okay. The only concern I have is that at one time, there was an issue about the easement for the driveway. So that, is it 167 has an easement on 151's property, so there's a single drive. We wanted to make sure that that was recorded. And I don't, according to Kathy Bowen, she has no indication that the order of conditions that included the plan with the easement has been recorded. Does anybody know, Deb? I don't know if you know, but she said, to her knowledge, it has not yet been recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
I thought they did record that with the A&R plan. We adjusted the Form A plan to accommodate more of the driveway separation between the two properties. So it would just be sort of the driveway entrance that would have to be the easement. But I can definitely follow up with that and double check.
Okay. It won't have to hold us up, but our approval of issuing a certificate of compliance would be contingent upon the recordation of that order of conditions that includes the easement.
Okay, so I'll double check. I'm sure they asked us for that, so I don't see why it wouldn't have been recorded.
Okay.
I can confirm.
Thanks, because I did talk to Kathy this afternoon about it, and
Sure.
she was under the impression, well, she had no
Record.
confirmation that it had been recorded. Usually
Okay.
she gets some kind of a record.
Sure.
All right. Any questions from commissioners? This appears to me to be in substantial compliance, you know, with the two exceptions listed on the letter dated July 16th, 2021. But I don't think that changes the substantial compliance component of this, and which Deb has signed. So are there any questions from abutters, members of the public, commissioners, anyone? If not, I would entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance on the basis that before it actually issues, we have to sign it, but before it actually issues, then we'd have to have receipt of confirmation of the recordation of the order of conditions that reflects the easement. Is there such a motion?
Moved.
Thanks, Hans. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Arthur. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? I think I heard Wendy there. Did I?
Yep, I said aye.
Okay, great, thanks. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll check in on the driveway easement.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just bear with me a moment, because that was 14. And 15 and 16 have been continued until 9/14 at the request of the applicant. 17 has been continued until 9/14 at the request of the applicant. Enforcement order at 82 Cliff Road, we addressed earlier this evening, and that's been continued until 9/14 at the request of the applicant. So the only, well, we do have additional business, but the next item on the agenda is the MCC enforcement order protocols. And I did this late, for which I apologize, because I often criticize people for springing stuff on us at the last minute, but I did send an email to everybody with a proposed or a draft enforcement plan. And this is really to address how we handle enforcement orders. And a couple of months or a month or so ago, Arthur was good enough to find and forward to me, and I think to everybody, the DEP manual on enforcement orders. And I shamelessly copied and pasted sections of that to put together into this draft. But what you need to know is it defines essentially a two-step process for us. And that is, one, we have the option of issuing a violation notice as opposed to an enforcement order. Or of course, we could issue the enforcement order. And generally speaking, the DEP manual suggests that the enforcement order is for more serious or more significant violations or non-compliance with DEP rules and regulations. And it's not just the rules and regulations that are statutory and the bylaws, of course, but it's also any violation of our order or a certificate of compliance or an RDA. It's any violation of that which we produce in the regular course. It's essentially, and what you should know is that it's essentially a request to come into compliance. It does two things. It puts the homeowner or the property owner on notice. It tells them what the violation is or the alleged violation, and it allows them to do a voluntary compliance. It also is a mechanism by which we seek site access. So if it's only 2 pages. It looks like it's thicker than that, but that's just because I attached some forms from DEP. And one of the forms is the violation notice. So you'll just see that, that's a DEP form. And the second one is the actual enforcement order. What you have to understand is that the notice violation is simply a request to comply. So we could not base a fine or a sanction on it. We would have to advance that to a enforcement order in order to impose a fine or a sanction. But it's the first step, and basically it puts the property owner on notice, allows us to see the place, and it also allows us to get site access. And in the draft, you'll also see that there are other mechanisms. You know, we can ask neighbors if the property owner won't let us in, then we can ask the neighbor to see if we can use their land to observe it. We could even go up in a hot air balloon and look down from the air. I didn't make that up. That air view is taken right out of the DEP manual.
Oh, the drones today, John.
What's that? Drones. You're right. You are correct.
Yeah, you can still be trespassing if you go over someone else's property without their permission with a drone. But anyway, let's hopefully we never have to go down that road.
Well, we do have the civil warrant, and that's actually in the draft that you can see.
The only recommendation I'd make there is, and I've seen other towns do this, is on that notice of violation, have an alternative. Well, I have a checkbox where it says notice of violation or notice of potential violation.
I agree. Yeah, I was going to use the word alleged, but I think potential is perfect.
And you can, you know, as in filling out the form, you can pick one or the other, and sometimes that carries a lot of weight.
Sure.
Makes sense. Makes very good sense, Hans.
Well, the way it's stated here, I mean, it doesn't have a checkbox.
Yeah, no, other towns have added that checkbox to the form.
Okay, but you're on the form because the form for the notice of violation says the Conservation Commission of Milton has information that you or your agent may have violated the Wetlands Protection Act. It's the may have, which would be potential violation. So were you referring to a checkbox on Appendix 5, which is actually the enforcement order? Okay, you just added, we don't have a box, but we can certainly add that.
Yes, correct. The instances I've seen, they've modified the PDF to their own purposes.
Okay. But how would you suggest that it read? Because right now it says the Conservation Commission is information that you or your agents may have violated the Wetlands Protection Act.
I'll see if I have an example that was diligently provided by the town of Weston.
Okay.
On a project that may have supported.
In the past, make sure you say in the past.
Yes,
If you could do that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
The select
I'll have
board.
it tomorrow.
Oh, that's perfect, because the select board has asked me to make a presentation to the select board on the 25th of August at their meeting to say, to tell them, get them up to speed as to what we're doing. Now, one of the other issues here, if we make this a regulation, we have to have the select board actually adopt it and promulgate it as a regulation. If we make it into the bylaw, it has to have town meeting approval. We could keep in mind that we actually do have a regulation currently, and it's section 7. And if you go to the town website, you can actually find the regulations, and we're chapter 15, which is the bylaw. If you look at the last page of what I sent you today, I copied just a piece of, all it says on the last page is A, B, C, and D. That's actually copied from a portion of section 7 of our current bylaw, the wetlands bylaw. And it gives us the enforcement authority to do what we've always been doing. But in the D, it says currently, any person who violates any provision of the bylaw, period. So what I did is this is a minor revision, but we'd have to have select board approval, because I added, or any provision of the Wetland Protection Act, which is chapter 131, section 40. Because surprising as it was to me, when I read it today, I said, whoops, why does it only say the bylaw? Because in fact, we issue enforcement orders to enforce the regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act as well. So I think it should reflect both. That would require, because it changes the regulation, that would require select board approval. So the question really for us is, do we want to add this wetlands compliance enforcement plan as just a resolution of the Conservation Commission and put it on our website? Or do we want to make it as part of our regulation, which would require the select board approval? To just think about that, because you need to go back and look at the actual town regulation and look to, I'm sorry, the town bylaw and see what I'm sorry, the regulation. I know I'm bouncing between the two and I apologize for it. But look at the regulation, which only requires select board approval. That's the one that needs a revision to add the Wetlands Protection Act in addition to the town bylaw. So we could go to the board and ask them to adopt that revision, plus we could add this plan as part of the regulation, or we could keep the regulation at our level and simply put it on our website. Regulations tend to be much shorter. This is a little bit wordy for a regulation, but that's why I stole it from the manual. And same thing, the manual from the DEP is not a regulation, it's just a manual. But it does give the public a sense of, what are you folks doing and why are you doing it and how are you doing it? So that really is an issue that we have to address.
Right.
And
I
I
think
don't know if,
managing expectations is very important here.
yeah. So do you have a sort of a gut reaction as to what level we should plug this or something like this into the system? Do we do it at the commission level? Do we do it at the select board level as a regulation? Or do we even try to amend the bylaw through town meeting? I don't think we need to put it in the bylaw, by the way.
So my gut reaction, without reading into the specifics of the bylaw, would be to incorporate this by reference in the bylaw, just providing additional detail on how enforcement actions are implemented.
That would require us proposing an article to the town meeting. It gets a little bit awkward.
Understood.
The regulation is the path of least resistance, and that has to be promulgated by the select board. And the regulations are printed. So there are two levels of sort of regulatory provisions that we're looking at. One is the bylaw, which is short and sweet, and the next one is the regulation, which is a little bit more wordy. And then this draft here is very wordy because it's basically more like the DEP manual. I don't know, Arthur, you may have some thought on this. My view is that we should either keep it at the commission level and put it on the website, or make it part of the regulation, but not make it part of the bylaw.
Yeah, and that's what I meant, actually. Make
Okay,
it part of the regulation.
okay.
John, as a sitting select board member, I think I have to stand aside on this discussion since it may be coming to the select board one form or another.
Well, okay, I don't think it's a conflict for you because, you know, we want to do it in the most appropriate fashion.
I agree. I just feel more comfortable.
Okay, all right. Well, I can certainly present the very same issue to the select board on the 25th of August. And at that point, then the select board could state their preference. I'm just trying to get a sense whether or not there's a consensus at the commission level. And I know I'm popping it on you at the last minute. I confess to that immediately. So you may want to think about it and, you know, give me a ring sometime between now and the 25th of August. Keeping in mind that Hans, if you could distribute that town of Weston notice, that would be helpful. Okay. All right, any other thoughts on how to move forward with this? Wendy, any ideas?
I'm afraid I don't have much to contribute, but excited to move forward.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so just, you know, feed me any information that you have, and then I'll make a presentation to the select board on the 25th of the month. All right? Which would bring us to the end of the agenda, which is additional business. And I think, Steve, you do have some?
Yes, we sure do. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, additional business. The first one is 600 Canton Ave. I'm going to share, I'm sharing the screen now. The little colored green area is the additional flag that we placed during the last site review of that area. And so I wanted to show it on this plan, and we have another signed plan that Kathy and I have, and I think I can show it to you if you want to see it. But the flag is there, and I think we need a vote to actually accept this and then issue an ORAD. Is that correct? Let me think. This is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, so it would be an ORAD, order of resource area delineation. I believe that requires a vote.
Steve, didn't we vote on this on site?
Maybe we did, with the proviso that we added the one flag, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct, but we did vote.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay.
Little
So I
crater.
want, sorry?
These are the little craters, right?
Yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. So I'm just showing you that that was done. Okay. And so we can now issue that ORAD.
I
Okay.
think we signed it, didn't we, Steve?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we sign it when we were on site?
I don't believe everyone signed it. We didn't have a quorum to sign it, I don't think.
Oh, I think that's right. I think
Yeah, that's why
Yeah,
Kathy asked me to put it on the agenda.
Jerry was still there, Ingrid was there, I was there,
I was there.
Arthur was there, we had a quorum.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yes.
still there. I thought he left early.
He left right after that.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So in any case, we can now issue. We can now issue. So
Yes.
you've seen it. Okay.
That's great, thanks.
The next thing is a little bit more complicated, and that is our friends over at 113 Woodland Road. And I'm not sure how to even explain it, frankly. I believe you explained it earlier tonight as we need um, both things on the same plan. We need the landscape plan as well as this plan, which I'm putting up on the board. That's what Kathy and I talked about earlier today. And I believe you and I talked about it earlier today as well, John. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So we need the landscape plan on this plan as well. Okay, and that's what I'd like to, let the horticulturist designer know that. And that's all I like to say on that for this evening. Okay?
Well, there's another aspect to it, though. That if Nancy can put it on the same plan, that's great. But Kathy brought up that some of the enforcement order provisions,
yes,
which allowed the landscaped area to revert to its natural state, were actually within the 100-foot vernal pool area.
Right.
So we needed from Nancy a letter saying that there were no significant adverse impacts because we have a 100-foot non-disturbance zone under our bylaw from a vernal pool. It's not 25 feet, it's 100 feet.
Right.
And it's non-disturbance. So she would, because we said change it, let it go back to its natural state. She thought we needed to have that letter from Nancy, which will be simple for her.
Yes.
Because it's reverting to its natural state, so of course there's no adverse impact.
Thank you.
Could you ask her for that letter?
Absolutely.
Steve, I think we are waiting for some data or specs on the pervious patio material. Did we ever get that from these folks?
Yes, I believe we did.
I think we did, and we voted on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, we did. Yep. And we had the micro clover discussion.
Yep.
And I must tell you, I put some in and it's really micro. It's very small. It's amazingly small, but it's growing just fine. It's very happy where I've got.
okay.
Just to follow up on that.
Does it have blooms, Steve?
I haven't seen any yet. I put it in about probably a month and a half ago, actually now.
Interesting.
I have not seen any flowers, any blooms at all.
Cool.
Yep, sets to date at least. The next thing I will follow that up. The next thing is 101 Neponset Valley Parkway. And we got a plan in, the latest plan we have. And correct me if I'm wrong, and Kathy and I had discussion today about this, but weren't they supposed to locate the trees and provide us with some DBHs on the plan? Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I do, because they're crossing the wetlands and they had to take the trees out.
Exactly. Well, we haven't seen that yet from them. So Kathy and I just wanted to let you know about that. Okay. So 101 NVP, we're still waiting for a plan. Okay. I just wanted to notify you.
What's that fellow's name isn't it from Collins Engineering? He seemed like a pretty responsible guy.
Yes, Peter Lyons. So I will get to Peter Lyons and ask him for that plan. And then we never had, Kathy reminded me, and there's no plan for this right now. We got a plan, a proper plan, and John, you are conflicted out on this one. For 14 Woodlot Drive, Hans made the suggestion back 2 meetings ago, I think, during a site walk, that they place an extended drainage trench on the westerly side of a patio that they're going to build. And we never had a quorum to vote on that. We got a plan, but we didn't have a quorum the last 2 site walks when I brought it up, John, because you were conflicted out. So it would be nice to have a vote right now if maybe Arthur could provide temporary chairmanship.
Right, and I'll avert my eyes and ears.
Exactly. Thank you.
So Steve, you are looking for a motion?
I am looking for a motion and then a vote. Yes, that's correct.
And that is to accept pending.
Accept the plan as revised.
Revised.
Yes, as revised. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
This is for
Moved.
14 Woodlot.
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Anybody?
Wendy or Ingrid?
Yes, second.
Okay, thank you, Ingrid.
All in favor, please, by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ingrid
Yes.
and Wendy?
Yes.
Thank you. We have 4 votes. It carries.
Okay, very good. At 10:26 p.m. Very good. And just one last item from me. Jerry may wish to chime in. The work at the site yard at Milton Academy is going very, very well. They've almost got their hillside done, and Greg Hockmuth and I will be out there and sometime in the next 3 weeks. It may be that long before when I come back to talk about placement of plants on the site. Just wanted to let you know it's going very, very well. Would you agree with that, Jerry?
He may have dropped off.
Oh, okay.
Jerry.
Sorry,
Jerry
Jerry.
gave up a while ago.
Okay.
You have to pay attention to your text messages.
That's fine. But anyway, that's the situation out there. It's going very well, in my opinion.
That's good. Good news.
And I have had discussions with Brian Pasqua. I'm sorry, I don't know his last name. Towntree.
Great.
You may know.
Pasquatonio.
Thank you. Pasquatonio. Yeah, Pasquatonio, perhaps. Regarding the work, and he's been very on top of the work. In fact, when Jerry questioned the location of the top of slope, the final top of slope, he sent one of the helpers back to his office to fetch a laminated plan. He had the plan laminated to take it in the field. I thought that was an excellent idea because then he could put it on the ground, and we looked at it, and guess what? We realized, yep, the plan is good. The top of slope is where the top of slope is proposed on the plan. It's a wonderful thing to have a plan in front of you.
That's good.
Sure.
Was Jerry happy to see that?
Yes, he was. It made him quite, I would say, quite less combative. Yeah, combative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So is that it for new business?
As far as from me, Arthur, you sometimes have new business.
Not this evening, but thank you, Steve.
Certainly. Hans?
Hans?
So as Arthur and some of the other folks know, there was a Eagle Scout project, which has subsequently been completed. Looks very nice near Pine Tree Brook. The individual at significant cost to himself has it ended up costing quite a bit more. And I think there's a GoFundMe page associated with the project. And so I figured I would bring up to see if there was any donation that the Conservation Commission could make, considering it is on Conservation Commission land.
Hans, I signed off as the sponsor last night. His sheet showing a balanced budget.
Mhm.
So the gap was narrowed.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah,
Narrowed or eliminated?
the gap was eliminated.
Oh, good. Okay.
Excellent.
Expenses and income equal one another.
Okay.
And what
All
was the address of that location? It was a 29 Parkway Crescent?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Oh, that's the adjacent property.
Right, exactly. Adjacent, yeah. Great.
That's
And
good.
there is an invitation to attend the ribbon cutting, right, Hans, in your neighborhood?
Correct.
On the 18th? At 6 o'clock?
I believe so, yeah.
I'll check that right now. Yes. 18th at 6 o'clock.
Perfect, good. And it would be nice if some of us could attend. I will certainly make an effort to do so.
Me too.
Good, that's great. All right, any other items? That we got? Nothing else? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Wendy,
So
all right.
moved.
Second?
Yeah.
I'll second it. No discussion, all right, thanks. Thanks all. Good night.
Have a good night.
Night all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.